Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
You don't get to party with John Boy today, I'm sorry. It's the guy that sounds like John Boy and looks like him if he really let himself go. How are you? My name is Greg Rakestraw. Yesterday was Brian. No, today I am playing the role of substitute teacher. John Boy is back tomorrow because, let's face it, he needs a couple of warm-up shows before the JMV takeover hits back on Saturday. So, some well-deserved time off. He basically thought it was like old school Labor Day weekend this weekend and did like a marathon. He did 8 hours of radio on B1057 and then did 5 hours of radio on 93 WIBC and 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan with like minimal sleep. I at least got like 4 hours of sleep, I think, on Saturday heading into Sunday when I have my own little like 14-hour shift. Not that I would want it any other way on race day. So I am in with you between now and 6. And, you know, one of the nice things about being the substitute teacher, there really is kind of more concern. You don't swear into a live microphone. You can just kind of talk to the people and talk about the subjects that you want to talk about today. And some of these things, to some degree, have fallen into my lap. So these might be some things that are just, I wouldn't say off the beaten path, but things that are probably on more of my daily beat than, say, would be on John's. So as is the case when I am filling in, we tend to run a little bit guest heavier. Because let's face it, I run a little bit heavier. But you can call the show at 317-239-1070. You can tweet to me at Greg Rakestraw. And yes, I still have an email account here in case you want to go that way. Greg at 1070thefan.com. I will actually check it during the course of the show because usually during the day, it might get checked about once every 4 or 5 days. I will try to speed that up as best I can on the program today. The guest list on the show today is as follows and is in chronological order because that's the way my brain works. I'm not sure. I would think it would be a curse to say that you look like me. By the way, there's a lot of dangling tires in this room. I can tell that I have not been able to host a show for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And, you know, in case you didn't know this, I used to have a full-time gig here. Now I'm just like the adjunct professor that comes in and teaches a night class for a couple of 3 months of the year. So when I'm in the building to produce Soccer Saturday or do it live, wink, wink, I'm often not on this floor. So I have not set foot in this room in probably about 3 or 4 weeks. I've been a little busy. And I am used to this floor going ape blank in terms of decorating for the month of May, which in Indianapolis ended on Sunday. Technically, by like the Gregorian calendar, you know, it ends at the end of business today. But I'm going to see if I can, because you can, I think you can maybe catch one of these, maybe over here for those of you watching on YouTube and Twitter, etc. So you see this? There are like 12 of them that are, you know, like hanging from the ceiling as we speak. I would assume that John has made some sort of reference to Team and Tire about all these dangling tires at some point in time during the course of the show. Sorry, my ADD kicked in. I got distracted. My apologies. Today on the program, Luke Bosso at 3:30. And yes, Luke looks like me. He has overcome that in life to hold a variety of important jobs. And I have known him more for his work in, say, the political sphere / I wouldn't say community activism. Actually, Luke's a guy that I'm not sure what jobs he's had, to be honest with you. I just know he's like one of those guys that's kind of around. You know, he has a job. I'm not sure what his job is, but it appears by how he dresses and where he eats, he's been gainfully employed. Well, now I know his place of business because he is the new athletic director at IUPUI. And in fact, poor Luke's going to get compared to me even more because like his seat at IUPUI basketball games for the men is like literally right next to mine as the play-by-play guy on ESPN+. So the new athletic director at IUPUI, which will soon become IU Indianapolis at about this time next year, Luke Bosso will be joining us coming up in the next segment of the show. Something that will take up a great deal of my time, and I mean that in a very good way, over the course of the next week is the Indiana-Kentucky All-Star Series. You know, there are 10 games being played under the auspices of the Indiana-Kentucky All-Star Series this year. We at ISC will broadcast 8 of those, including 2 at Gamebridge Fieldhouse a week from Saturday. There is activity at Jeffersonville that is coming up on Sunday afternoon. We'll kind of set the stage for the week that will be with Mike Broughton, of course, former head coach at Jeffersonville, my broadcast partner for the IHSAA Boys and Girls State Finals, and he is the All-Star Game Director for the Indiana All-Stars. We'll talk about that and more with Mike coming up a little bit later on this hour. Normally, when I am doing a broadcast this time of year, I am frequently paired with Brad Hauter. We have been doing this now for 10 years in terms of broadcasting Indy 11 soccer. For this year and next year, our home will continue to be behind the team benches, pitch side, right next to the suites at Carroll Stadium, the mic, as we tend to call it with the Indy 11. For 3 years, it was Lucas Oil Stadium. But we're back at IUPUI, and that's always felt a bit more like home for us. Well, literally, ground was broken this morning for the new home of the Indy 11 and 11 Park. The Diamond Chain facility will start to come down. 11 Park, residential business areas, as kind of downtown extends a bit further southwest, down Kentucky Avenue up against the White River. Well, the reason I bring up Brad, you're like, all right, you're going to break down the game Brad's going to have on. Yes, he is my color commentator. Yes, he played 10 years professionally. Yes, he coached at the collegiate level, both men and women, for over 2 decades. But these days, Brad has a new job. He is the vice president of marketing and club growth for the Indy 11. And I would say if you are a director of club growth and marketing and various other things, being handed a brand new stadium a few months into your tenure is probably the way to go. So Brad will join us. We may talk about the team. We probably won't. We're talking about that brand new building and the ceremony and stuff like that from earlier today. That'll come your way at 4 o'clock. One of the things that has also kind of forced its way into the conversation between me, John, other hosts, etc., is the fact that this has been an exceedingly good year from a college baseball standpoint. Obviously, because of John being a very proud alumnus of Indiana State University, as well he should be. He has talked about the trees and knowing that they get to host an NCAA regional coming up on Friday. Clearly, we have both Indiana University and Ball State. Ball State champions the Mid-American Conference. Congratulations to the Cards. Hoosiers didn't fare as well in the Big Ten tournament, but you know what? They won 40 games. They knew they were going to be in the NCAAs. They're playing down in Lexington. Apparently, they're going to be staying in dorms in Lexington because there's all kind of stuff going on in Lexington, and maybe they might need more hotel rooms, and maybe they shouldn't have been a host site, but that's a conversation for a different day. And I'm sure the next couple of days, there'll be more conversation about college baseball. I can't believe it's been 10 years since the Indiana Hoosiers, Kyle Schwarber, Travis, etc., all made this deep run. Aaron Slager is one of the great pitchers on that team. That team made a run to Omaha and won their first game in the College World Series. Maybe we have a team at the Division I level that can do something like that. Well, at the Division II level, we do have a team that has made the Division II World Series. That is an event that I broadcast for 5 years on NCAA.com. So I'm partial to it because of my alma mater, as well as I know the event very well. So we're going to have not one but two because there's a lot of great stories on that team. But there are 2 stories from those UIndy Greyhounds that stick out to me. First of all, there is a last name that you are very familiar with on this radio station. And it's a common last name, but it is the closest connection you could have. The closer for the Greyhounds is E.J. White. You might know his dad, Eddie, as in the host of the world's allegedly greatest postgame show. Now, I'm the only one that says allegedly because, I kind of think the postgame show I do is pretty good too. That's really not a sticking point between Eddie and I. We are really close friends. But his son, EJ, who, by the way, wants to work in soccer when he's done playing college baseball, he got the final out in terms of slinging on the mound, did that several times along the way in terms of UIndy's tournament run. Their baseball tournament run now has been going for 2 weeks. They have yet to lose. They're one of 8 teams still playing at the Division II level. And EJ will join us coming up at some point in time during the 4:30 segment, because we're going to have not one but two guests talk about the University of Indianapolis baseball team. And the other one, his name is Adam Rakestraw. That is not my son. So yes, both post-game shows are very well represented in this town on the UIndy roster, because there's a White and a Rakestraw. One of them is the kid, the other one is not. I am not related to Adam Rakestraw that I know of. We may do like some 23andMe sort of thing on the radio coming up. You know, for 20 years, I was the most athletic Rakestraw to play a sport at the University of Indianapolis, and I sucked, okay? But then this kid comes in and completely takes all of my shine. So we're going to talk to, he's a starter, by the way, on the team. We're going to talk to Adam coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of the program as well. And then, oh yes, Kevin Bowen will make his weekly appearance, not only with JMV, but instead he is stuck with me. That will be coming up at 5 o'clock today. So there you go. That is the rundown in terms of guests, in terms of who we'll be talking to on the program today. Phone lines are open, 317-239-1070. Tweet to me at Greg Rakestraw. Email the show anytime, Greg at 1070thefan.com. From a topic standpoint, I know by the time that we kind of get to Wednesday, we tend to be moving on from the Indianapolis 500. Clearly not in the promotions department in terms of the decor, with all of these tires that are here in the room. Apparently it's always going to be 500 season here in the drivehubler.com studios. But we can talk about that again, because I spent so much time at 16th and Georgetown and loved every second of it. I made this point to... well, just anybody who would listen, because I just kind of randomly talk and see who I might catch their attention in conversation, kind of like, you know, this segment of the show. I was on the PA for 4 hours and 45 minutes on Sunday morning, and it absolutely flew. It felt like I was there for 30 minutes. Part of that was the company that I was keeping in terms of track dude Michael Young. Part of it was the subject matter and sort of saying, hey, it's going to be this beautiful day for the 107th running of the Indianapolis 500. But part of it was I really enjoyed what I did. And for the most part, I really enjoyed the race. Now, those last 3 red flags kind of bogged things down a little bit. And obviously, speaking of tires, we are having a completely different conversation about that race if that tire exits the racetrack at any other spot than where it did. Everyone is exceedingly lucky. But at the same time, and I thought, and not surprisingly, because he's really good and B really knows what he's doing in this field, Kevin Lee last night on Trackside, I thought, basically said it very well. And I'm not going to try to quote him. I will paraphrase it. But given whom the owner of the series and the facility is in terms of Roger Penske, but frankly, the overall track record of safety innovations in, say, the last quarter century in the IndyCar series, I guarantee you they have gone to work already over the course of the last 72 hours to make sure what happened in terms of that tire going haywire and not being tethered and clearing the catch fence, they will make sure that that does not happen again. Because the last time I remember that happening in an Indy 500, think back to 87. The last time I remember that happening in terms of the IndyCar series in the stands was the tragic Charlotte race in the late 90s. It doesn't happen that often. It's not supposed to happen. There are systems to ensure that that doesn't happen. It still happened, which is kind of the nature anyway of both innovation, but also the nature of racing. But I guarantee you that has been the subject of many meetings, much research, much conversation, potentially testing, etc. But that was the biggest drawback, and it frankly wasn't a drawback at all because of, again, the lucky break, the lucky bounce, the lucky flight of that tire. I'm sure the series is going to work to make sure that does not happen again, if at all possible. But in terms of talking about the race was great. Maybe race a little ho-hum at times, but it's never ho-hum when you've got 30 cars that are all going north of 220 miles an hour together out there at the Motor Speedway. And when you have the history of the place, the way that you, the Indianapolis public, the general racing public, have once again fallen back in love with the Indy 500 and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. From an anecdotal standpoint, I've been doing the post-race show now for 10 years on The Fan. twice when I have left the facility at 7 o'clock, my usual sign-off time. Twice have I ever encountered any issue with traffic. 2016 and Sunday. And even Sunday saying it was an issue is pretty light. I was back in my not-so-palatial Broadapple estate by 7:40. I was held up for like 20 minutes. And I can live with that with 300,000+ people trying to exit, the near west side of Indianapolis. You want to talk anything 500, we certainly can. You want to talk anything NBA playoffs and NBA finals, we certainly can. And I will admit, because of all of the things that I do and all of the various sports that I cover, the NBA has fallen off of my radar. Part of that, too, is the fact that the Pacers, while much better this year and more interesting this year, their season has been done now for about 7 weeks. Obviously, we're already in that process of talking about, hey, who's that 7th pick going to be? Hey, whom are the Pacers bringing in from a workout standpoint? Hey, where are those, IU products? Is Zach Edey staying in? I'll check Twitter to see. I know that decision is looming in terms of, is he coming back for one more year? Is he going to stay in the NBA draft? I don't think I had seen an answer by the time I signed on at 3 o'clock. But I don't follow as much NBA as I used to when I was in the job down the hall or in a seat like this every day. But I'm compelled to watch the NBA Finals almost for the same reasons that I did when it was the Bucks and the Suns 2 years ago. And the reason being is that teams that don't often make it, I realize the Heat have been there a lot over the last 15 years. I get that. Dwayne Wade and Shaq in 06. LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, et cetera, and at the expense of the Indiana Pacers 3 times during that run a decade or so ago. But I still have utmost respect for the Heat, A, because of how good Eric Spoelstra has been, because of historically how good Pat Riley has been, and because Jimmy Butler basically said in the era of the super team, hey, I'm going to go here and we're going to figure it out. And they largely have. And because it's the Nuggets' first go-round, and again, because the Nuggets didn't super team it either, and they got lucky and found a talent that turned out to be transcendent in Nikola Jokic. And then they have the pieces around him, like Murray. They bring in a KCP. They bring in an Aaron Gordon. In other words, they make the right moves to build around the guy that they determine, a la like the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Holy, we have a star on our hands. A star that we normally wouldn't get in our market. I'm not sure if I'd claim Denver's a small market, but kind of their performance overall as an NBA franchise in the last 50 years, you would say they've been kind of small market. Superstars get drafted there, Carmelo Anthony. Superstars haven't often ended up in Denver for whatever reason. But they drafted correctly in terms of Murray and Jokic, and now they have put pieces around him. And I say Jokic, maybe it's Jokic. I could be wrong about that. You know what I'm talking about, right? So don't crush me if I'm saying if I'm Euroing his name and I haven't Americanized it to Jokic just yet. I know he's called the Joker. You know who I'm talking about. Big dude, can pass like triple-double every night. You know the guy. Looks kind of slow, but knows exactly where he's supposed to be on the court at all times and knows where everybody else is on the court at all times. That guy. Talking about him. So anyway, do I carve out a lot of time to watch the NBA during the regular season? Not really. Do I keep tabs on the Pacers doing? Yes. Am I motivated to watch the Pacers more next season because of how fun they were for most of this season? Absolutely I am. Have I spent a great deal of time watching the NBA playoffs? Not really. But I did tune in on Saturday night before I went to bed for the minimal sleep I got before getting to the track at 5:30 on Sunday. I watched the right 3 seconds. That's for sure. I literally tuned in after doing the Indy 11 game on Saturday night, got home, turned on the TV, and I'm literally watching as Jimmy Butler is fouled, and they determine, hey, we called that a 2, that's supposed to be a 3. And then that dude calmly sinks all 3 free throws, and then remarkably the Celtics still win, and then somehow the Heat go to Boston and crush them. Because just as you're not supposed to be in the series when you're down 3-0, you're also then supposed to just to go Mike Tyson on you, fade off into Bolivian when you then give up games 4, 5, and 6, and you're going back home. That series was bananas. So I'll be tuned into the NBA playoffs and tuned into the NBA finals. You want to talk about that? We certainly can talk about those things as well. From a Colts perspective, obviously I talk a lot about the Colts during the course of the season. Not exactly anything news-breaking new just yet, but I'll actually be able to kind of lay eyes on the team and whatever value you put in off-season workouts. We're just talking about that with JB as we had a line change here from the noon program to this one. Said, see you on Friday. I'll actually get to go out to the complex and kind of check some things out and check out, all right, just how is the young kid progressing? And frankly, you know what guys like me are watching more than anything else? Who's getting how many reps? You know, how many first-team reps is the fourth pick in the draft getting? How many reps is the veteran backup getting? You know, are you starting to see signs of this really becoming Anthony Richardson's team? But since I am fortunate enough to be the preseason television voice of the Colts for 2 games this year, thanks Amazon Prime, and the post-game show host for the Colts, obviously anything Colts are in play throughout the course of the program. So there you go. That's 22 minutes of table setting. It's like the best I can do on that front. Again, guests, Luke Bosso, new athletic director at IUPUI. Mike Broughton, all-star game director for the Indiana All-Stars. Brad Hauter. Again, I'm talking to him less as my friend and less as my, colleague, coworker, life partner on Indy 11 television now for a decade. We're like common law at this point. But this is more of his stuffy corporate, actually I'm amazed. I think he might have actually worn a shirt and tie at today's festivities. We'll keep it very professional and stuffy when he joins us during the 4 o'clock hour, I'm sure. Talking about the alma mater in college baseball and talking primarily Colts, but a variety of things with Kevin Bowen. That's what we're doing today. If you want to interact with me, 317-239-1070. Email Greg at 1070thefan.com. Tweet to me at Greg Rakestraw. Or as I always say, you know the bat phone here? Text me. That'll work too. But I'm not going to give up my phone number on the show. Just yet. The phone number that you can use is 317-239-1070. Stay tuned. Luke Bosso joins us next. Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV, 93.5 and 107. without JMV. We got plenty of tire decorations in here. Not enough working headphones in here. So you may hear me just shuffling around. Like those of you watching on camera, I will just magically start to walk off camera here for a matter of moments. I'll try to avoid going all, I think I got one. I'll try to avoid going all Jake Query, because when Jake is on radio in the morning or Jake is on TV on the ISC Sports Network, he has this habit of not caring where the microphone location is and just randomly talking. We're like, Jake, brother, microphone might be the way to go. And yes, I know we got a guest on, but I may have to be able to hear him. Now, what I can't do, though, is try to actually, let's see, those headphones start getting cranked up. They get to JMV levels, because, we literally got the man a hearing aid deal and he wouldn't wear them. When he's on his day off and not listening, I'll speak about him. We actually had put together a hearing aid deal for JMV, and he would not wear them. All right. I think I can actually now hear our guest, which is why I was tap dancing until we got him lined up. So I did not plan on having this person on the program today until I found out that literally a buddy of mine was going to become the new AD at IUPUI. And as I joked in the opening segment of the show, I never really quite sure what his job was before. Now I have a good idea. It's Luke Bosso that joins us now. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. Let's start with first things first. If you would, tell the listening audience how you have overcome looking like me and yet been as successful as you have been doing whatever it is that you've done.
Well, it's a suit and tie, right?
That's what it is.
Evil.
Yes.
I'm evil Greg Rakestraw, because that's from the tie, so I get it. That's where it's come from.
Well, the crazy thing is that, I've rocked the beard for a better part of a year. I am now clean shaven. So once again, I'm like Luke, if he really let himself go and didn't spend time working out at this point. Well, congratulations on this. I did not know that potentially being a college AD was in the plans for you. How did this all come about?
First of all, IUPUI it's in a great location in a great city, and I've spent the better half of my career working to make the city of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana better. And when the opportunity was presented in front of me, I decided to go for it. And seeing President Witten's plan for the transformation, getting to know Chancellor Klein, and really going out and selling this Jags team and letting people know when they play and using it as a front door to the city of Indianapolis, it was just an opportunity I couldn't turn down.
All right, so with that, you are obviously there is a unique transformation that is taking place. And for those that don't know, I had this spiel all prepared for 2003 when I was the voice of the Jaguars on radio. We were in the NCAA tournament. I explained to people there's no such thing as an IUPUI degree. You either get an IU degree or Purdue degree. It's always been kind of two separate campuses, so to speak, but they've been merged together athletically. That is not going to be the case after this coming year. It will be IU Indianapolis. So as best you can, walk us through maybe kind of why that happened and now what that means for you in this new job going forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of academic reasons why it makes sense. You hit the nail on the head with the IU Purdue, the combination, and we've seen success in other places. So rolling out to IU Indianapolis, making it one university, one team, competing under one banner, knowing it's IU Indy, and really giving a new identity to the downtown campus, to our student athletes, and making this the greatest experience we can for our student athletes. For our coaches, for our athletic office, and really the people of Indianapolis. I want this to be, I want people to fill the Nat, the Carroll Stadium, the Coliseum, the Jungle, and come out and support our student athletes and know when you're there, you're supporting IU Indianapolis. One more year IUPUI, as you mentioned, but we'll have a new logo, new gear, and I'm just beyond excited to be able to do this in my home city.
I've acclimated probably about 178 IUPUI polo shirts over the last 20 years. Do I have to get rid of all of those as of next June, Luke?
The ones that don't, if the ones that just have the Jaguar on it, you're fine.
Okay.
But the ones say IUPUI, we gotta change those out for new ones.
So coming to a third world country near you, I'll be donating half my attire coming up about 12 months from now. Obviously, with 16, 18 programs, I've lost track of how many exactly athletic teams. I'm sure have that off the front. But for so many people, it is how you doing in football? Or in this case, how you doing in men's basketball? And men's basketball was better this year than last year. There's still a long way to go to get back to where everybody wants this to be. I guess kind of your thoughts as to where the program is now and the steps forward for Matt Crenshaw and team.
Yeah, so 18 teams. I do have that.
There you go.
Look, Greg, we've known each other for a long time now. I wouldn't have taken this position if I didn't think we could win. And, with the state of Indiana, with the history of basketball, there's no reason why IUPUI and IU Indianapolis can't compete. Matt's had a big week in the transfer portal, picking up two guys coming in that are going to be really good. The team hasn't been where we want them to be, but I have confidence that when I come in working with Matt and his staff that we're going to get it to a level that we're going to compete every year at the top of the Horizon League. That's why I'm here. And, even on the women's side, I mean, Kate Bruce and her staff have done a fantastic job. That's a program that continues to compete. And look, you're a historian of Indiana sports, and in this state, with as much basketball talent as we have coming through it, there's no reason why we can't be at the top of the Horizon League and get top quality kids from Indiana to come to IUPUI and win basketball games. And that when I went through the process, that's what I told every coach. I'm here to win. I'm for sure they're all here to win. And that's the mentality we're going to have every day when I come into the athletic office, that what are we doing to advance every program? But to your point, we have to advance the basketball teams. And I know we have the right people in place to do that. Again,
Luke Bosso, he is the new athletic director at IUPUI. 1 year from now, that'll be IU Indianapolis. Joining us, Greg Rakestraw in for JMV. It's the good-looking club here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. This has always been the job of the athletic director. We're frankly a lot more open about it than, say, we used to be. To me, I look at your job, and a lot of it is going to be fundraising to help, again, try to revitalize programs or strengthen programs that have been really good. I guess just your thoughts as to just how big of a part of your job that is, Luke.
Oh, I'm going to spend every day on fundraising and sponsorships. I hope that we're embraced by the city of Indy and by the region. We talk about a lot, right, in the world I used to come from, Greg, and workforce and how we need quality people to stay within the state of Indiana, city of Indianapolis. And to me, there's no better way for companies and individuals to get involved and buy into that process right now than IUPUI Athletics. We have a great student athletes. I mean, one thing I was really impressed about during the process were how smart the student athletes were and how focused and how dialed in they were. We're going to go out and take the message to the people and get to know them. And I hope people buy in. And I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing that.
Obviously, season is over. I think the last team that would have competed might have been track and field. Maybe it was softball a couple of weeks ago. Athletes will still be on campus, but competitions don't really start back up again for about 2.5, 3 months. So what does June and July then look like for you before athletes kind of return in full song coming in August?
Yeah, so, first of all, I have to really get to know the staff. I've had a couple of meetings so far, but really want to get to know everybody and know what their strengths are and how we continue to improve. That's probably my first 30 days, get to know the coaches. But also during that time, anybody that knows me, if you want to be involved, I'm going to reach out. I've been overwhelmed by the support I've had today by friends and former coworkers and people around the city that really want to see this program succeed. And I'm going to be out and about talking to them, telling them all about all the great things we have going on. And then we're going to get dialed in and leading up to the fall sports. And, during the fall sports season, everybody's going to know when the Jags play. We're going to make sure and blast it on social media. We're going to blast it everywhere we can. Hopefully, do this with you and John. Maybe John will give me some time to talk about his hair and all the great things he has going on. And we'll talk about Jags athletics so people know what's going on. I mean, if you think about it, Greg, it's, this is great Division I experience. You can be up close and personal with the athletes, get to know the athletes. And there's no reason why we can't have success like a lot of other urban schools within the United States.
A couple quick things, and then we'll let you go. And again, you answer as long as you want to. No, you have to be quick on my behalf. I think about a mutual friend of ours, and Andy Klein, who is the interim chancellor at IUPUI and is leaving to go to Wake Forest. I want to wish him the best of luck. He has been very supportive. But one of the things that he said repeatedly in both official conversations and unofficial, so to speak, conversations with me, and me being around IUPUI Athletics now for more than 20 years, There have been times where I'm not sure exactly how much Bloomington's campus wanted to support the Indianapolis campus in terms of athletics. And my guess is you probably heard that a little bit over the course of the last few weeks. But I am told by many people that is not the case with Pamela Whitten. So I guess with what you're comfortable to share, your thoughts on how the president of IU views athletics at what will become IU Indianapolis.
She's all in. She's all in for the program. First of all, Andy's been great to me. We got to know each other during the Horizon League conference tournament that we had here. We're both on the local organizing committee, and Andy was great during the process. And Andy is all in, obviously. But Pam Whitten has been all in during the athletics process. We've had some great conversations about her vision, and her vision is to win as well. And we want to win the right way. We're going to win the right way. And to me, it was really important to know that she was bought into the programs, and she is. And I'm leaving a great job to come do this. And if I didn't believe that everybody within the IU network wasn't all in to see success at what will become IU Indianapolis, I surely didn't have to take this position. And during the interview process, I was told hundreds of times how committed the entire IU network is to the success of the IU Indianapolis, what will become the IU Indianapolis campus. And that's really, for me, that was one of the big selling points. And I look forward to President Whitten being at games. She goes to a lot of games.
Yep.
And look forward to putting on shows for her so our teams are really successful and they can see how committed she is to the program.
And there has always been, and finally before we let you go, there has always been this conversation, probably dating back to the day it was built in the early 80s, about what we now call the jungle, the IUPUI gymnasium. And obviously that was built with an NAI school in mind. And now IUPUI has been Division I for a quarter century. I don't think the need is what it was 10 years ago, because that's how much I believe in the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. Love that building. I think it's a great place to watch a basketball game. But I know if you had your druthers, you'd rather be playing on campus in a facility that would be suitable for Division I men's basketball. It's great for the women's team. It's great for volleyball. I know there are other locker room considerations and things like that you're going to be kind of wrapping your arms around too. But I guess just in your mind, a timeline to potentially have your own facility for all three of those teams on campus.
Greg, right now I am just 100% focused on getting people to the jungle for women's games and getting people to the Indiana Farmers Coliseum for men's games. As other stuff comes along, I'll focus on that. But right now, head down, totally focused on the next season, on giving as many people as I can, whether it's students or people in the community, to both those venues to check it out. That's where my focus is now. That
is a tremendous political answer. Your background is going to serve you well, my friend. Now, a lot of times this is where I say goodbye and hang up, then I say something nice about you on the air before we go to break. But because of our friendship, I'm going to say it while you're listening to me. I am so happy that you got this job. And again, I have had, if not a full-time relationship, then somewhere more than a part-time relationship. People like Ed Holdaway and IUPUI basketball and other sports, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. I'm as excited about IUPUI Athletics as I have been in some time because I believe in you. I think you're going to do a phenomenal job. You know I'm here to help and support in any way possible. Congratulations, my friend. I look forward to working with you, if not on a daily basis, then on a more regular basis. Congratulations, buddy.
I appreciate it. That means the world to me, and go Jags, and I can't wait to see you again.
You got it, buddy. Luke Bosso, again, he is the new director of athletics at IUPUI, and again, 1 year from now, that will be IU Indianapolis, and he is joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Great hire by the folks at IU and the folks at IUPUI. We'll take this quick time out. We'll go from talking about college basketball to guys that a week from now will be playing, college basketball, the Indiana All-Stars. Their game director is Mike Broughton. It is a very busy week. It is about to commence on Sunday, and I'll be able to chronicle most of the action for you on the ISC Sports Network. More on that in a moment. Greg in for JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The James. Now, James is instructing our intern that is here, who I know from the University of Indianapolis. I have now blanked his first name. Thank you, Nathaniel. I work with you on a regular basis. One of our, because you worked on Bob's show, right? Exactly. So I know Nathaniel. I'm an intern. He works here too. He's got a key card and everything. Their two ages combined equal mine. So not little Rob Zombie that was just played out of the break there, but the movie clip that was played. What was that movie clip from?
Oh, it's not the House of a Thousand Corpses or the other movie, Devil's 3 or whatever.
Well, that was not a zombie movie. No, you're talking about zombie movies. I'm talking about the movie clip that was played leading into the Rob Zombie song.
Oh, okay.
Yes, not a Rob Zombie movie.
I got you. Life of Brian from Monty Python.
Very well. Now, does it say that on the computer, or do you know that off the top?
Oh, I know that off the top. I made that rejoinder.
Now, my question is, do you think John knows that movie?
I don't know. I would hope
I will hear you play Monty, and obviously he's in the age group. I'm in the age bracket as well. That's why I bring that up. Mm-hmm. But every time I hear you play that when John's here, I'm like, I'm not sure if John strikes me as a Monty Python type of fella. He enjoys a good rib every now and again, but I'm not sure Monty Python is his speed.
I would hope.
I'm not sure he's here for the silliness.
I would hope he at least likes Holy Grail.
Well, who doesn't? I mean, my goodness. So, okay. Well played by you. Thank you. I won't give you any grief for anything at least in the next 15 minutes.
Awesome.
Back to the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. This poor guy's going to be singing way too much of me over the course of the next week, but he does that every week during the course of the high school basketball season. It is all-star season for Indiana basketball with games Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And Saturday ending the series the right way at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. He is my friend. He is my coworker. He is the director of the Indiana All-Stars. It is Mike Broughton. Hello, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? It sounds like you guys were talking about things. I think I'm more Clint Eastwood. I'm not sure. I think I fall way back.
I'm with you on Eastwood. We're all good on that front. I'm not sure people know the amount of work that you put in year-round, or at least from the start of a basketball season to get to this point. How you feeling a week out?
Well, I think we got everything in order. In fact, today was busy. We wrote the script today, which is a few hours. Went to Indianapolis with Tony, and we wrote the script, and then was over with the Pacers and Gainbridge, and we walked around the field house, and, it just smells like the All-Star week. It's coming, and we're really looking forward to getting back to Gainbridge, and hope we have a great crowd because we have a really good teams this year, and the girls and the boys.
All right. It has been 4 years through a combination of COVID and construction that you have played this game, at least the Indiana version versus Kentucky at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So you've referenced it already, but could you just put into words what it means to be back there and kind of play this game at such an NBA all-world level facility?
Well, Southport was great to help us out. We were in trouble, and the NCAA has so many different rules that we ended up having to go to Southport. We were kind of hoping to move it to Hinkle for those years, and we weren't able to do it through the NCAA. But going back to Gainbridge, it's a fantastic place to play. I think the kids, no matter what high school they played at or no matter where they played at, they get a little nervous when they walk in there on Saturday. And I was telling the girls all-star team at practice a couple weeks ago that, you walk in there, unless you play in the NBA, there's really no college game like this because we got the DJs playing, and it's a fever Pacer atmosphere. And I said, I don't think you'll get to do that unless you make it to the top level. So I hope they have a good time. But it'll be fantastic for the kids. And I know the Kentucky kids as well. They're kind of awestruck when they come in.
All right, so with that, again, people tend to think of, well, there's the game in Kentucky. That's the Sports Center in Owensboro. There's the game in Indianapolis, and as you just know, I just learned, that's going to be at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. But there's the junior game in Jeffersonville. There's the junior-senior game coming up next week, too. So kind of walk me through the full week of activities you've got set up.
Well, on Sunday, June 4th, we go to Jeffersonville, and our Indiana juniors, our junior all-star team, will play the Kentucky all-star team. And, of course, this year, our juniors are kind of led by Flory Badunga, who's kind of a national name. And so we play at Jeffersonville at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock on Sunday, June 4th, and then we start camp at Marion with the seniors on June the 6th, and on June the 7th, we go to Cathedral High School, and we're going to have our juniors, our Indiana All-Star juniors play our Indiana seniors in a game so we can get our seniors ready to go to Owensboro on Friday. So, like you said, we'll be together a lot, and there's a lot of basketball going on. And then also on Saturday, for the first time ever, at noon on Saturday, our best freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, some of the best ones, maybe not all of them, but some of them, and the girls and the boys are going to play at noon and 2 o'clock in a futures game. And we're trying to sell the best of the past, the present, and the future. And the futures game is, again, at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The girls at noon, the boys at 2 on Saturday, June 10th, and then, of course, the All-Star game that evening.
A couple things from that jump out to me. First of all, you referenced Flory Badunga, and this young man has been in this state for less than 2 years. But I also know how important he is treating this and how much he wants to play for Indiana, frankly, how much he wants to win Mr. Basketball this year. You've been around this state and this game for a long time. Your thoughts about the way that this place has adopted him, but frankly, the way he has adopted this place every bit as much?
I mean, I think he's a kid. I've talked to him only once, but I think he's a young man that appreciates Indiana high school basketball about as much as any kid I've ever met. And it's new to him. Everything's kind of new, and he's going to have a fantastic career. I mean, he's got NBA written all over him, but he really wants to be part of this high school series. He wants to be part this year with the juniors. It's going to make it's going to make it a little harder on our seniors by the juniors, and I know it's going to be making it hard on the juniors at Kentucky. But he just wants to be involved in all the activities that lead up to possibly next year him being Mr. Basketball. It's refreshing. You know, there's so many other things going on for kids today, but he's really centered on what Indiana high school is about, and he loves it. And I think he kind of willed Kokomo to runner-up because of his kind of love for basketball, love for the state of Indiana.
And you and I were impressed by him in the state finals, and the word is he has gotten nothing but better in terms of working on areas where he knew he had to expand his game, and he has done that already in the spring AAU circuit. The other young man I wanted to point out, because you touched on bringing back past Mr. and Miss Basketballs to kind of have all the generations represented of this game. There was one former All-Star that you had no problem bringing back because his grandson is playing for the team. What's it like having Billy Keller back involved? His grandson is Luke Almodovar from Noblesville, going to play at St. Francis. It's so cool that Billy is coming back for this. Kind of your thoughts on that?
Well, I've contacted him twice down in Florida, and he is so excited to come back, partly because of his grandson, but also partly because, you know, he is kind of the Pacers. He is Indiana high school basketball. He won a state championship. He won ABA championships. And I think he's about as excited as any kid I got, to be honest, to come back. And we're also, he doesn't know this, but we're also going to have him open the boys game, giving the basketball to the referee. And we're going to honor the 6 Mr. and Miss Basketballs that we have highlighted. They're going to sign autographs from 4 to 5 o'clock, and we have this fantastic little poster that we had people in the IBCA draw up of their past pictures of when they played. Denny Brady, Humes, Judy Warren. So we have these pictures of the past. And so from 4 to 5, you come in the door. We got a free throw shoot with Hoosier Shooting Academy for a T-shirt. All you got to do is hit a free throw. Shouldn't be hard for a lot of the kids. And then they can go over, and the 6 all past Mr. Basketballs and Miss Basketballs are going to sign a poster for them. And so we're kind of bringing all of Indiana back. We want the past. We want the present with the All-Star game. And, of course, we're bringing the future kids back, some of them only freshmen, but are really good players across the state. And so we just hope that people will jump on board and that we can sell a lot of tickets for this game. We're going to have dance cams and all kinds of different things. And I think it'll be a lot of fun if people want to come down on Saturday the 10th and see these high school kids in action. You can see all the best players across the state on that Saturday.
All right, best way to get tickets, whether it's for Jeffersonville on Sunday, Cathedral on Wednesday, or the Fieldhouse on Saturday, best way to get tickets for each of those venues.
Okay, at Jeffersonville, you just go down the day of the game, and they're selling tickets. You don't need any fancy computers or phones. It's $10 to watch The girls and the boys play at Jeffersonville. First game's at 2 o'clock on Sunday. And then on Wednesday, the same thing. It's a $10 ticket for the 2 games at Indianapolis Cathedral High School. I think it's going to be great. There's only 900 seats, and we hope we fill them all plus a little bit. And then, of course, at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the 317-917-2727 is the box office, and you can contact them there. And we've done I think right now we're probably a little ahead of what we've been in the past, but we would like to really step it forward. We got some great futures games, again, with Flory and some Benner that's going to Purdue.
Yep.
We got some of the top players. And then, of course, the All-Star game, we got Booker going to Michigan State, Burton, who's Mr. Basketball, and then, of course, Layla Hall's going to North Carolina. So I think it's going to be fantastic. If you're a basketball fan, we'd love for you to be there.
Mike, as always, buddy, thanks for the time. And again, I'll be seeing you at pretty much every venue the next week. Thanks for the time, my friend. I'll see you soon.
You take care of yourself, and thanks for supporting us. Really appreciate it.
You got it. Mike Broughton again joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We, as an ISC, will be streaming the doubleheader from Jeffersonville, the doubleheader from Cathedral, the doubleheader in Owensboro, and the last 2 games at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So we will cover everything other than the 2 futures games. The reason we're not doing the first 2 is that we got like 3 events next Friday. We are literally out of human beings and equipment. So we're going to focus on the last 2. So you'll see me on my social media, post links. All the games are pay-per-view. The 6 games in Indiana, a chunk of that pay-per-view revenue will go back to the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association. So you are helping the cause of this game if you're watching these games online. But I'll be the first to tell you, go buy a ticket. You can always go back and watch our broadcast later. We'll do a great job covering the action, but go buy a ticket. It'll be worth your time. And again, it's not just a walk back through history. It's a really good look at what's happening now, which is damn good basketball in our state on both the girls' side and the boys' side. I easily make the transition from basketball to soccer. I normally do that in the month of March to early April. We'll do that from the 3 o'clock hour to the 4 o'clock hour when we come back on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. high school basketball, you knew soccer was going to mix in there, right? Want to thank the Indy 11 for giving me a pretty easy excuse to talk about soccer on the show today. Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. You know, like breaking ground on a long-awaited new stadium, one that will be ready for the club's 12th season of play on the men's side, we hope, by April of 2025. Here to answer the most difficult questions I can think of, much like trivia that we would have during our broadcast. You may know him as Brad Hauter, as in my broadcast partner for life on Indy 11 broadcasts, legitimately like one of my best friends, but also like professional soccer player and longtime coach at both Rose-Hulman and DePaul. That's like the night and weekend job, or the past tense now for Brad. These days, his primary responsibility is as the director of club growth and marketing for the Indy 11, and so I would say today was a very big day for him and for the remainder of his working days with the Indy 11. How's that sound, my friend?
I cannot believe it. It feels like it's Christmas morning.
Obviously, you know, you have been attached to this like I have over the course of now the last 9 years. Over the course of, say, the last 7 or 8 months, this has become something you think about for 5 to 10 to 15 hours a week, to something you might think about literally 24/7, 365. I realize the end goal is 22, 23 months away, but to know that countdown is officially ticking as of now, what does that mean to you?
It's so incredibly exciting. You know, as a guy who grew up in Indianapolis, you know, did my middle school, my high school, my college time in Indy, and love this city. And to see what 11 Park is going to bring to downtown Indianapolis, I mean, we're going to talk the soccer aspect of it, but there is so much more to 11 Park than just the stadium and the soccer aspect.
What struck you about the ceremony today? Again, it's just to kind of get things kick-started. It's just to kind of grab everybody's attention locally, and I know that job was completed successfully, but in terms of atmosphere, attitude, things said, anything that will kind of, you know, when you think back to this day, however long ago it's going to be, that they'll kind of come to the forefront of your memory?
Just surreal. Absolutely surreal. You know, you and I have been around this club for a decade now, and the talk of a stadium, the talk of pro soccer, you look at the women's pro, the Super League team that we've just acquired. You look at the pro academies. You look at all of this stuff, and, you know, you hear buzzing about what Indy 11 is going to be doing and not just a league-wide, but, you know, on a bigger scale. And the stadium has always kind of been that hum in the back of your head, because we've heard about it for a long time. You know, COVID hit right when it started ramping up last time. And then you're sitting in there and have you seen the video? Did you see the video?
I saw the video. You did a good job on that.
Oh my goodness. You sit there and you're looking at this thing and you're just absolutely blown away in the surreal feel, like 10 years of working on this and towards this is actually coming to fruition.
And let's face it, you know, it shows just how solidly soccer has made it. We still hope for continued growth. But if you have, and again, of like, you know, like 1/10 of a percentage of people have the understanding that you do, having lived this life playing indoor soccer and then playing the early stages of Division II, Division III outdoor soccer, you know, in the mid to late 90s. But for a club that has a first division women's program coming up in 2 years, but there's no guarantee the Indy 11 are going to play in Major League Soccer. We wouldn't be against it, but if not, they'll play in the USL Championship. But to have a something that doesn't have, again, that guaranteed MLS buy-in, but yet this 20,000-seat venue with, yes, all of the office and all the business and all of the residential that will go along with it. But to have a venue for a club that doesn't necessarily have that MLS carrot, or is not threatening to say, hey, we can't keep our MLS team if you don't build this for us. To me, this is quite the development, not just in Indianapolis, but in the general kind of American soccer landscape. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're 100% right with it. And I think the other aspect is everything that goes around the stadium. You know, soccer is a game that once you experience it and even if you don't really fully, you know, I think that the newcomer is still trying to grasp offsides. And so you've got the newbie that's coming into it, and then you've got the people that have grown up in the game. But when you're sitting in there and there's the chanting and there's the passion and there's the energy, it's hard to not fall in love with the game of soccer. So now it's how do you introduce more people to it? You take a look at everything that's going into 11 Park, from hotels, from office spaces, to retail, to restaurants, to apartments. Now there's no excuse for all of these people not to at least just take a look at it. And once you look at it, you fall in love.
What has been the feedback so far? Because again, let's face it, the pictures, the visuals, have been there in some form or fashion for 7, 8, 9 years. Obviously, this has been much more solidified over the course of the last few months, and we will see those pictures turn into reality between now and April of 2025. But the feedback that you have gotten from really the last, say, 3 or 4 months until now, what has that feedback been like?
Well, I don't think there's anybody that looks at the renderings and says, you could have done better. I think it's an absolute home run. And, when you look at social media today, the comments on this, it's mind-blowing, the excitement in this city right now.
Again, Brad Hauter, he is, well, you know him from television and radio with me and on Soccer Saturday on this radio station. But again, the day job would be as the Vice President of Marketing and Club Growth of the Indy 11, and he joins us here. Almost said Soccer Saturday. Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. All right, I know you're a soccer expert. I know you're a marketing expert. You're actually an expert on farming. That's a conversation for a different day. You're not a construction guy, maybe like of some sort of goat ranch. You literally could construct that, but you're not a construction guy. So I'm asking you a construction question. I understand that. So now what? What are the next 23 months like as we are ramping up to playing in 11 Park as early as possible in 2025?
Yeah, nobody wants me involved in the construction conversation. Trust me on that. And with it, there's so much that goes into it, from just understanding, permits and all that stuff. I that is so far out of my wheelhouse. I don't even know the timeline on when things go down and when things start to go up. All I know is, we're looking at 2025. We've got 2 years to try and get this. It'd be an absolute dream, Rake, if we're kicking off the 2025 season in the new venue. But I don't know everything that goes along the lines to build to that point.
I guess from a standpoint of in the office, internally, now that, again, shovels in the dirt, it's no longer a matter of if, it's going to be a matter of when. And even we know when that end date is going to be, because frankly, we've kind of been in that mode, as you've said, kind of from the pandemic on. How does this change the day-to-day operations of this club?
That's going to be really interesting because, one of the things when you're in the competition business, which we are, is the day-to-day grind on trying to be better and win that next day, win that next moment, win that next game is 24/7. I mean, the energy and the work never turns off. Everything, this has been great. This has been a great day, great energy, great positivity. But I got to tell you, we got Charleston Battery that we're playing on Friday. We've not lost our focus on that. And our women have their home opener Friday night against Racing Louisville. So, you can only take a moment to stop and smell the roses and look at that rendering and watch that video so long. And then it's back to work. We got to win. All
right, let me kind of walk people through. So this is kind of like the broadcast. Brad's going to be quiet for a little while, and I'm going to explain some things. Then Brad will try to say something smart about it on the back end of it.
Hold on. Just a second ago, I thought I got named VP of Soccer Saturday.
You were Vice President of Club Marketing and Growth. You are occasionally is the key word there, an invited guest on Soccer Saturday.
Gotcha.
And there is a pretty good chance that this conversation will re-air on Soccer Saturday, just so you know, right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. So as I was saying, and Brad alluded to the Indy 11 women's team. They play in the W League. That is a pre-professional league that are players that are still in college, just graduated with college. A lot of players that on this year's team have had previous professional experience, looking to kind of get back into the pro ranks, or are trying to use this as a springboard to debut as pros. That's the level the Indy 11 women are playing at now. That's the USLW League. The hope is, not the hope, they're going to play in the Super League. The hope is that begins in August of 2025. And again, of note, that is the FIFA calendar. That is going to be an August through May league. I'm sure there will be a winter break. I'm sure there's going to be some creative scheduling involved in there. So we're not trying to play matches when it's 8 below zero potentially on a given Saturday in January. It's now been a couple of weeks since that news has come out because literally you have packed like a year's worth of news into 3 weeks for the Indy 11. What has the feedback been like in terms of now knowing what the path is going to be for women's professional soccer in this city?
Unbelievably exciting. I mean, you look at the Super League from the USL, first division status. So it's the top tier of professional soccer for women in the United States. And when you look at our W League team, I mean, we're 3-0, 12 goals for, 0 goals against. We've got, like you mentioned, we've got some players on there that have pro experience. I think if you're a player on our W League team, you're saying, I really like this. I like this experience. How can I continue to grow here in this club? So I'm sitting in that driver's seat when the Super League team pops up in 2024, 2025. I want to be in that mix. I want to be on that roster.
And again, the Super League is a Division I league. It is not the NWSL. And again, that I realize is more of a USL question. Now, frankly, the fact that it is a Tier 1 league is what was so appealing to the Indy 11. Your thoughts on August through May? In one case, Brad, again, it kind of helps us from a scheduling standpoint with having the Indy 11 men and Indy 11 women playing in the same venue. For you and I, it gives us 12 months a year of soccer to talk about. That's not a bad thing. But you've played some cold outdoor matches. You've coached in some cold outdoor matches. Your thoughts of the unique nature of that August to May schedule they're about to embark on?
Those cold matches, they toughen you up. A lot of mental toughness into those.
Does that work for fans as well? It toughens them up too?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I love the fact that, we can be working off of a 12-month soccer calendar. I think it's important on the scheduling aspect of, we were in Lucas Oil. There were times we couldn't have a weekend game or a Saturday, Sunday game because of something that was going on in that venue. Having our own venue and having teams that kind of overlap just a little bit season-wise is fantastic. You look at concerts, you look at other things that we can bring into the venue, and it spaces it out as opposed to, hey, being really heavy usage in 6 months and then kind of dormant the rest of the time.
All right, so for any time you have news that is like this, and again, the team has been around now for over 10 years. This is our 10th season from a men's standpoint, second season from a women's standpoint. But there will be people that literally might be hearing about the Indy 11 for the first time. Not on this radio program, but you're going to be on the top of every newscast across the city tonight because of this construction project. And again, what it will add to downtown Indianapolis. If somebody calls your office and says, hey, I just heard about the Indy 11, after you get over that initial shock, what are you telling them about this team, this club, this franchise going forward?
Well, you mentioned some of the announcements we've had in the last week from the Super League team, the women's pro team, to the pro academies. We have put in place something for everyone. So we've got soccer at the highest level of professional for both men and women, and we have all of the steps. I mean, we're invested in club programs on the rec level throughout the state. We've got 16,000 kids across the state of Indiana that we are investing in to help them grow the game and to help them grow the love of the game all the way up to the pro academy. So no matter where you are in that ladder of soccer enthusiasm, passion, knowledge, we've got something for you.
Again, the Indy 11 break ground on 11 Park. That happened as of about 5 hours ago. Big day for soccer, a big day for downtown Indianapolis, and a big day for Brad Hauter, who joins us now. Now, you were concerned about me asking you 2 difficult questions. How did I do in those 15 minutes? Is that okay?
Yeah, you did good. You're a pretty good interviewer.
Well, thank you. I think I have some years of practice at this. I also know Brad's preferred attire is more on the casual side. What was the decor for you today at the groundbreaking? What'd you wear?
I was dying. I was in a suit. It was 90 degrees out there. I'm used to, from my coaching job and from my playing job, I'm used to elastic waistbands. This belt and dress shoe stuff, that's weird for me.
Thankfully, you're still a full-time farmer, so you work out. So you're still skinny as all get out,
right.
Even barreling towards 60 as you are. I'm happy for everybody. Because obviously I'm to some degree a part of the team, but I'm happy for so many for to some degree. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for so many people that have been involved in this over the course of the last 10 years. And I realize it has only just begun, and we will have more conversations like this for the next 23 months, but especially when the spring of 2025 rolls around. I'm seeing you Friday night at Graham Park, correct?
Correct. I'll be there.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, pal. Bye-bye.
Brad Hauter, again, you know him from Channel 23 and Wish TV and Soccer Saturday and DePaul University. But these days, he's got a full-time fancy job as the director of marketing and club growth for the Indy 11. If you want to talk to me about 11 Park, we can certainly do that. Brad knows more about it than I do. I know that I can't wait for that day a couple of years from now. And I know the importance of what it means for the team. I know the importance of what it means for the growth of women's professional soccer in this country to have a second league as an option to be able to play. I'm curious about, and you can hear it in my voice when three different conversations I've had about it. I'm curious about the August to May schedule. Again, there's what it means for me. It's more soccer 12 months a year. And I've been in the soccer 12 months a year business because of hosting a weekly soccer radio show since March of 2014. I love the fact that more local players are going to get a chance to play professionally. I like that. I like the fact there's more places to live downtown, more hotel space downtown, another great venue downtown. I am for all those things because of the other events that it will bring to the city of Indianapolis as well. So I'm in favor of all of those things. So today was a good day, whether you're a soccer fan or not, for downtown Indianapolis. 317-239-1070 is telephone number, at Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. Email with me as well, greg@1070thefan.com. Before we get to our next time out, a little bit of news from college basketball. And because of the Indiana ties to this program and because of the Cinderella nature of their team, a lot of folks locally adopted Florida Atlantic as their March sweethearts. Well, the player from the state of Indiana, John L. Davis, former Indiana All-Star, didn't get to play for the team because that was the 2020 class that did not get to have an All-Star game because of the pandemic. He just announced that he is going back to Florida Atlantic for one more year. So too is Elijah Martin. And a lot of folks are saying now that the Owls, coached by the pride of Greene County in Dusty May, could be a top 10 team next year. Hey, they were a top 4 team this year. Why wouldn't they be a top 10 team with key pieces coming back? So John L. Davis of Gary 21st Century Academy going to go back to FAU for one more year. Will not enter the NBA draft. Today is decision day. Are you staying? Are you going? And obviously there's another person slightly taller than Nelly that we'll try to update you on as best we can. 317-239-1070, at Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. Again, you can also email the show, greg@1070thefan.com. When we come back, it's been a good couple of weeks for college baseball. I rattled off the Division I teams that are playing in the postseason. Taylor and Indiana Wesleyan represented the Crossroads League in the state of Indiana in the NAIA World Series out in Idaho. But there's a D2 team that is also qualified for the World Series. They happen to be an alma mater. And I've got not one, but two interesting stories to share with you next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Antler
And John, of course, got Monday off as part of the holiday. Got yesterday off. Brian No filled in. You're stuck with me as a substitute teacher today. John is back tomorrow on the program. Now, for the last, let's see. I think I rattled the stat off earlier. This is the 10th year in a row that I have done the Indy 500 post-race show on the Fan and on 93 WIBC. Well, the 5 years before that, perhaps I would have been available. But I was usually otherwise spoken for Memorial Day weekend. I was in Cary, North Carolina at the USA Baseball Training Center doing the NCAA Division II World Series for NCAA.com. One of those 5 years I did that, I was lucky enough that the alma mater, the University of Indianapolis, qualified for that event. Unfortunately, the Hounds went 0-2 the last time that they went down, but I have a feeling that this time it's going to be a little bit different. This team has caught fire as of late. And, I always, even though I don't do a talk show on a full-time basis now, always kind of formulate things as a talk show host in my head. So, man, if I have a chance to talk about this team, there's a couple of really good stories I can sink my teeth into. One, I've known one of the key players on this team before he knew who I was, because I've known his mom and dad for the better part of the last 10 to 15 years. The other guy, he's stuck sharing the same last name as me. When your last name is Rakestraw, and we are not related, by the way, maybe we are, we'll find that out here coming up in a matter of moments. But when your last name is Rakestraw and you run another Rakestraw, it's like you're part of the family reunion, whether you think you're related or not. You start comparing notes. Hey, where are you from? Hey, who you know? Hey, who have you met before? Well, for the first time, because he's been on campus now for 4 years, we've never still met in person, but having a conversation for the first time. His name is Adam Rakestraw, and he joins us now. It's good to have another Rakestraw on the show. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Pretty wild to be talking to another Rakestraw.
How often does this happen in your life, by the way?
I think before this, it's happened maybe one other time ever.
So you've been on campus now for 4 years. How long did it take for somebody to ask if you knew me or were related to me or potentially might have been like my kid?
I'm pretty sure it was the first week I got on campus. I was asked if I was your kid.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that was the case. Is your dad Darren, by the way? Is that your dad?
Yes, he is.
So because I'll see him pop up on Twitter. So he and I have interacted on social media on that front. Yeah. So my apologies to your actual dad that was the case. But were you recruited by Gary Vaught, or were you an Al Ready recruit for these last 4 years?
I was an Al Ready recruit, so just as he was coming in, that's when I was recruited here.
And that is the current head coach, and I'll talk to him at some point in time later this weekend when I'm filling in for Bob Level. But I reference Gary because Gary was the coach for 25 years. Gary was literally the coach that began my freshman year. So my freshman year in UIndy, new AD, new baseball coach, new football coach. Timing was very serendipitous for me because that group then was there seemingly forever, when I would come back to campus. So you are from Cincinnati. Why was UIndy the right place for you?
It had to do with a couple things. It was my major, being a business administration, the distance from home, and then the ability to play. So I was fielding some other offers and trying to make the tough decision about going to a bigger school, a smaller school, or somewhere in the middle, and it kind of all just came together, and this was the right place. It's about an hour 45 from home, so it kind of just made sense with all the variables adding up.
I caught wind from some of my UIndy friends that, hey, there's a Rakestraw on the team when you were a freshman, and I looked you up, and your number was somewhere in the 60s. You get to your second year, you get to make one start the entire year. Last year, kind of a part-time player. Things must be going better for you because now you're wearing number 5. They normally give those single digits to guys that are actually going to play. What changed for you this year in your 4th year on campus?
It really was just confidence. So coming in, basically having nothing left to lose, like knowing it's my last year with future plans, and just being confident. And then also just like the culture with every guy here. We all got each other's backs, and everyone is playing for each other and not for themselves. So I think that really helped everybody just come together this year.
Most successful seasons do not begin by starting 1-10 in conference play. And this was against other really good teams and the teams that would make the postseason. You guys got off to a great non-conference start. First 3 conference weekends went haywire. How'd you and your teammates turn it around by the time you got to April?
So Coach Reddy always talks to us before the year about there being 3 seasons, the non-conference, conference, and then the postseason. And the previous years, we've kind of stumbled in the non-conference, came back with the conference, and then postseason has been up in the air. But this year we started off hot in the non-conference and then had a fall at the very beginning of conference against some good teams. And honestly, I think that is what helped us like later in the postseason, because you see some of these good teams just dominate the regular season, and then they're kind of caught off guard if a game doesn't go their way in the postseason. And getting over that hump early in the year and getting that out of the way, I think, helped with the maturity of our team.
It has been a full-on revenge tour for the Greyhounds. They won at Illinois Springfield, league foe in 11 innings, then swept Maryville, league foe, by combined 9 and 10-run margins. Then this is somewhat new for Division II, to have kind of and it mirrors Division I. You have a super regional round where it's just you and another team playing a best 2 out of 3. You had to go to play at Quincy, who was ranked number 5 or number 6 in Division II. You won a couple of close games on the road at their building last weekend. What was that experience like for you and your teammates?
It was just the most rewarding experience we've had all season. I mean, we saw them for one game in the conference tournament. It was a really close game, and they got the better end of it, but we knew we were going to see them again, and that's kind of what we put up on our bulletin board. We're going to be seeing these guys again, and not to look too far ahead in the future, but just to be focused on that matchup and ready to tackle it was our main goal.
I've made a trip or two to Quincy, Illinois. I know that can be a long bus ride home if you don't win. When you win, it's quite the opposite. What were those 5 hours like coming back to Indianapolis last weekend?
That was the fastest bus ride we've ever had, I think. That was a good one.
All right, so I talked briefly on that. I've been to Cary a few times. I love that building. You guys are flying out tomorrow. What do you expect for this experience? Well, I know you expect to win. That part's a given. I get that, and there's some of the teams that feel the exact same way you do. But in terms of just the setting, the place, the trip, what you've been told, what are you thinking about heading in?
I've been told, and by our coaches and the people who have been there or at least watched a lot of it, that it's just all about celebrating and competing. So I think we're all just looking forward to getting to go. It's a dream of every baseball player that plays in the NCAA to go to a World Series, no matter the division. And I think we're just going to try to enjoy it as much as we can and play as hard as we can. It's going to be, we think, a similar environment to Quincy as far as the crowd and everything, but just treating it like any other game and playing our best and having fun is what we hope to do.
Now, I know eligibility-wise, you are a junior because of the COVID year. Are you planning to come back for one more year, or is 4 years enough for you?
I am not. So, yeah, that's been a hot topic discussion around here, especially after we went on this run. And so, as you know, I'm from Cincinnati, and my plan throughout all of college was to go to law school next year. So I was accepted into the University of Cincinnati Law School, and that's where I'm going to be going next year. So who knows? But as of right now, that's my plan.
We got ourselves a smart Rakestraw for once on this program. I like this. Greg Rakestraw filling in with Adam Rakestraw. Again, first for me. Again, we are not related that we know of here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. So, all right, the only other Rakestraw that you have talked to would be where and whom? Where were they from? Do you remember?
I actually didn't even speak to them. I remember seeing on some summer ball trip during my high school career, I think somewhere down south, maybe Mississippi, I'm not sure. But one of those states down south, we were playing a tournament, and we just saw a Rakestraw construction van. So me and my dad got out and took a picture with it, and we were like, this is awesome. Like, we thought we were alone, but that's probably the only time I think I've ever seen that. All
right, so here is the Rakestraw family lineage that I can share with you. We'll pass this along. So that might have been Tupelo, Mississippi. I know of a Bill Rakestraw that has worked in the radio advertising business down in that neck of the woods. I was broadcasting. Was it Brandon Woodruff that pitches for the Brewers? I did the American Legion World Series for 4 years, and he was pitching for the Tupelo team. So my name flashes up on screen. This guy's watching his hometown team. He tracks me down. And to kind of compare notes kind of like this. There is a Larry Rakestraw that was the quarterback at the University of Georgia. My dad's Larry Rakestraw, not that one. So anytime that I do like any sort of conversation with somebody down south, people ask, "Are you Larry Rakestraw's son?" And I go, "Why, yes, I am." And my dad happens to be from Alabama, but it's not that one. There are Rakestraws that I'm not related to that live here in Indianapolis. I wouldn't say it's a common name, but there's a group of Rakestraws that live out kind of on the west side in the Ben Davis area, and I have become Facebook friends with one of them. There was a Jeff Rakestraw that was a longtime member of the Marion County Sheriff's Department. I got a ticket. You might know this area well, kind of going too fast up 31/East Street my first year on campus. And they said, "Hey, you know Jeff?" I said, "Man, I wish I did." And I did not. There are a series of Rakestraws that live in Kansas, and in fact, one of them was the mayor of a town in eastern Kansas. So that is and there are apparently Rakestraws up around Rochester. So there you go, more than you ever needed or wanted to know about the Rakestraw clan.
Yeah, I gotta study up on my Rakestraw knowledge, I guess. Man, I did not know any of that.
Well, once you get that law school degree, you'll be able to fund a Rakestraw family, non-family get-together, and we'll all, kind of collaborate on that. Adam, Adam, it is a pleasure to finally get to talk to you. I look forward to meeting you in person. Thanks for carrying on the family name at UIndy. It was nice being the best Rakestraw athlete there for 20 years. I now succeed that title to you, but go get him this week down in Cary, okay?
Thank you so much. Hope to talk to you soon. All right.
You got it. That's Adam. All right, so now we're going to go from one UIndy player to another. Because, damn it, when the alma mater wakes the World Series, we're going to have two guests on the show, especially when, I work with both mom and dad on a regular basis. Now, why did E.J. White have to go second? Well, he's the closer. He never starts the game, but he comes in now to finish off the segment. E.J., how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mr. Rakestraw. Life's going really, really well right now.
You never have to say Mr. I appreciate the respect. Never say Mr. with me. Greg is perfectly fine. I have been living vicariously through your dad's Facebook posts over these the entire season, but especially these last 3 weeks. What has this ride been like for you?
It's been nothing short of incredible. If I'm being completely honest, I mean we're a really, really close group, and we have been all year since we first met back in August in one of the classrooms on campus. We started off the year 13-0, last undefeated Division II baseball team, and then we lost 9 in a row, and we kind of had our backs against the wall. Starting off conference 0-8. I mean, that's brutal. And then we split our next series, but one of the things we really wanted to focus on was just winning each and every week. Just leaving the week positive, going 3-2, 4-1, and we've been doing that to this day. So it's been awesome.
Now, part of the story for you, and obviously because of knowing your mom and dad for so long, and then quasi knowing you, EJ was at DePaul, but had one more year left and wanted a bit of a, nothing against DePaul, wanted a bit of a different experience. Why was UIndy the right place for you after being in Greencastle the last few years?
Well, to start off, I actually have 2 more years. I have this year and next year.
My bad.
No, all good. But DePaul was a great place for me. I learned a lot about myself. I matured, and I wanted to keep on playing the game that I love. I was playing in the college summer league up at Grand Park, working with guys up at Pro X, Jay Lair, who's the best. He's the best up there. And one of my coaches was Adam Cornwell, our current pitching coach at UIndy. And he was always in my ear. He was helping me out left and right. And he was really one of the reasons why I came to UIndy, heard great things, knew a lot of great players that have gone through here. So I knew it would be a good fit.
Every bullpen needs a guy that throws from the side. EJ is that guy. I know you wanted to kind of start that in high school. That kind of got poo-pooed a little bit, and I want to go down that road again. Like I said, I know your dad, as you can tell. But where did that begin for you, and why is that an effective pitch for you?
So it started off the summer before my senior year of high school. That guy, Jay Lair, I'm talking about, he kind of sat me down and was like, all right, you want to be different? You want to play in college? I was like, yes, 100%. I'll do whatever it takes. And it started off just using a towel, working on a lot of stretching because you're using a lot of different muscles than you are just regular throwing over the top. But I'm all about deception, really. I used to have crazy long blonde curly hair. I wear glasses when I throw. I wear the high pants. I try to be all goofy and weird on the field, just to try to mess with the hitters a little bit. But I love being able to just throw different pitches that move different ways. My whole goal as a pitcher is to make sure the batter does not see the same pitch that looks the same way. So I'm going to throw a different fastball every time. I'm going to throw a different changeup, different slider, just to kind of keep them on their heels a little bit.
That's your dad coming out in you right there. For those that don't know, EJ's mom basically played on the predecessor of the women's national team from a soccer standpoint. Mom was the Marion County Athlete of the Year at North Central. Is that right? Is that a correct statement, EJ?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know she played her college soccer at George Mason. Timing is everything in life. Women's professional soccer was not around, or she frankly would have played. She's that good. She's won a state title as a head coach at Brebeuf, which is where EJ went to high school as well. So I know where the athleticism comes from. What sort of athlete was Eduardo Blanco, as he calls himself, growing up?
Oh, Lord. You know what? He loves the game more than anyone. And it's so awesome having both my parents support me so much. And, you know, my dad is my biggest fan, but he is also my biggest critic. So I appreciate him for both of those. But, you know, he loves baseball more than anything. And I think that definitely shows with all his tweets.
No doubt about that. EJ White, son of Eddie White, host of the world's greatest post-game show, joins us here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. All right, why number 62?
It was actually just given to me. I requested a couple numbers. I committed to UIndy pretty late, and I just said whatever number works. So I got 62. And I also, I don't know, I kind of like it. Not a lot of people wear 62, so it's just something else that's different about me. But yeah, there's really nothing special behind 62.
And I know that in talking with your dad that you are thinking about, to some degree, following in Mom's footsteps. The goal for you at least a few years ago was to work professionally in soccer and to potentially do so in the Premier League. Has that changed at all?
That has not changed. I mean, of course, you know, soccer's in my blood with my mom, and I love every little thing about soccer. Had the great opportunity to work with Hope Solo for 2 separate occasions, which was really, really cool. I studied abroad over in England for a month. I absolutely love the beautiful game. But yeah, I know you're a big fan as well.
A little bit. I know a thing or two. I'm not the player your mom was, but I know a thing. What I also know is that it's not exactly your dad's favorite sport. So every time that he would talk to me about you wanting to work in soccer, there was almost like this sense of resignation in his voice, even though he is obviously very, very proud of you. So what, you know, clearly you got one more year at UIndy left. We can keep working on a master's degree. You've already graduated from DePauw. 5-10 years from now, what's the goal? What do you want to be doing with your life in terms of working in soccer?
So at my time at DePauw, I took 4 years of Chinese. So I want to kind of maybe work in the Asian market a little bit, because I know there's a lot of TV money, a lot of marketing deals over there. So that's kind of niche, a little bit thing about me. But I want to be over in England. I want to work in sports. That's of course my goal now, and I know it'll be a long adventure to get there, but I'm looking forward to it.
Of the many wonderful qualities your dad has, there is no one that can network like that man. So I have been told that Troy Aikman gave you a congratulatory text and phone call. Lance Lynn gave you a mitt and gave you a congratulatory phone call. Anybody else from the hit parade that I'm missing at this point?
No, not really. This has just all been a crazy kind of surreal moment for me and the rest of the team. I mean, we have a bunch of really, really great guys. And we have great coaching staff. We're so close. We work hard. We do the little things right. And we just really enjoy being around one another. And this has been the best time of my life on a baseball field, and something I'll definitely never forget. But we're not done yet.
There you go.
That much. We're going for it all.
There you go. EJ, buddy, you know I'm rooting for you wherever you're going to be playing at, but especially when you pick the alma mater. Job well done on that. Congratulations on the road to this point, and best luck in Cary. Safe travels tomorrow.
Thank you so much, sir. It was great talking to you.
You got it, buddy.
Good one.
You too. EJ White, again, thanks to both he and Adam Rakestraw. Feel like I'm related to them both. Good luck, Hounds, coming up in Cary, North Carolina. Their first game is coming up on Saturday night. It is a double elimination, 8 teams. They play Millersville of Pennsylvania in their opening game, and you can watch all those games for free at NCAA.com. Back in a moment, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
That unmistakable smell is finally in the air again. Spring seems to have sprung. Whether you're in the last-minute scramble to get the
remember the Lakers in like the 80 NBA Finals when I see this. Thanks for putting up with me, Greg Rakestraw, in for JMV. John is back tomorrow. I know Mike Chappell will be on the program tomorrow. Mitch Hannes will be on the show. So, again, I plug my alma mater when I am here on the program. John will take care of his, even if he spent a semester or a year at the University of Indianapolis. Obviously, ISU is home. And I am partial to the trees as well, just because I am lucky enough to get to do a handful of athletic events for them on ESPN Plus or the radio these days at ISU. I had a chance to see that baseball team play a couple of times, and one of those games was just utterly ridiculous. Everything that was packed in to that game. So I did Indiana State's win against Illinois, I think on May 2nd. That was a 13-inning game. Dude from Illinois, because of the way the wind was blowing out that day, there are probably trees that I would estimate are about 30 feet tall that serve as the batter's eye in center field. Dude from the Illini cleared them on one. Keegan Watson of Indiana State robbed a home run that made like a top 10 Sports Center play that game. Guy from, I think Davidson, I think is the pitcher's last name. It's been a month since I had him. But I think he threw an immaculate inning. 9 pitches, 9 strikes in that inning. Game-winning home run in the bottom of the 13th. Illinois tied it with a home run in the top of the 9th. Crazy good game. I think Indiana State set a record for pitcher strikeouts in that, because it was a 13-inning game. I think they struck out like 20 batters in that game. It was ridiculous. But Indiana State's really good. And I'll be checking in on them. I'll be checking in on the Hoosiers. I'll be checking in on Ball State. Obviously, I'll be following what my Greyhounds do from a college baseball standpoint this weekend. I am so glad, though, that Indiana State was rewarded for what their computer ranking was, what their overall record was, for winning the Missouri Valley, for the difficulty in schedule in which they have played. But I guess that when you looked at like their schedule versus like teams in the top 50, they were somewhat of a stat anomaly. They were, I guess, 2-9 against that level of team. And one of those obviously being Vanderbilt. You know, you play one of the best teams in the country and you smoke them, albeit on a Tuesday. That gets people's attention. Well, there's been a lot of chatter about does Terre Haute, first of all, do the Sycamores deserve a host of regional? I'm not going to try to pretend to be some sort of college baseball expert. I dabble a little bit. I guess I ended up calling, between Butler, between Indiana State and the Horizon, like I guess I did about 10 to 12 Division I games this past spring. Doesn't make me an expert. I think I know maybe more than most. I love the fact that because of how good their record was, because of the schedule that they played and the caliber of non-conference opponents they played, they were rewarded by being given a regional. I love that fact. There are those that will criticize it because they're not an SEC team. They're not a Big 12 team. They're not a Pac-12 team. So I hope Indiana State wins for that reason. And there are those that will criticize the selection because of the stadium, which is a great place to watch a game, but seats about 1,000 people. It's not massive. There are some that will criticize it because they will criticize Terre Haute. Obviously, the person that normally sits in this chair will defend them to the hilt. And as someone that spent, again, I didn't go to school at Indiana State, didn't go to school at Rose-Hulman, grow up there, but actually I spent time like going to various camps like every summer I was in high school. I spent a week in 91. I spent 2 weeks in 92. I spent a week in 93 in Terre Haute. And I've been back a couple of times the last couple of years, and there's some cool spots in downtown Terre Haute. Copper Bar, man. It's a good spot. There's some nice Terre Haute has made an effort on their downtown on maybe don't cruise the bash anymore, but I wouldn't be bashing that place. You're going to be okay if you're spending a weekend there. If you're a fan of North Carolina or Iowa or Wright State. And by the way, I had Wright State last week. They're a pretty good team, too. That will not be easy for Indiana State coming up on Friday afternoon in that 1-4 game. But I'm a little invested because I've been making that drive on a more regular basis to broadcast some Sycamore athletic events. and because of my friendship with people like Luke Martin, John Sherman, Seth Montgomery, others behind the scenes in Terre Haute. So roll damn trees. Good luck, guys. Well, I got the opportunity as well, since I plugged UIndy. Well, to make sure I congratulated the ladies from Marion. Their season ended in the NAIA Softball World Series semifinals. Great run for Scott Fleming's team. They basically return every player but one of the rotation. Next year won't begin for them for several months down the road, but since I had the platform here, wanted to make sure that I gave them some proper congratulations as well. If you have missed any of our interviews so far, brand new IUPUI AD Luke Bosso, Mike Broughton, Indiana All-Star Game Director, 4 days of basketball featuring the best juniors and seniors in the state of Indiana, frankly, because of the Futures Game, best freshman and sophomore too. That starts on Sunday down in Jeffersonville. We'll stream all those on the ISC Sports Network. Brad Hauter talking about stadium. The breaking of ground for 11 Park was officially today at the old Diamond Chain facility. Had Brian on the program, and again, not one but 2 great interviews. The alma mater's doing well in terms of producing quality conversationalists on the baseball team. One, Adam Rakestraw. No, we are not related. Yes, he's far more athletic than me. And then E.J. White. They joined us in the last segment of the show. You can go back and listen to those anytime at 1075thefan.com. We'll take this quick time out. Kevin Bowen will be joining us next. Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Indianapolis 500. And now for the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engine.
Starting to form into
of that program. Kevin, is that a factual statement?
Boy, I felt like the 3 hours I spent with him today, I felt like I was in the danger zone.
You always know you are side seat driving on that show because you're not quite sure where that's going to go, right?
No, and you know what? My dad taught driver's ed for about 30 years, so I kind of feel like I'm almost my dad, just kind of grasping for the wheel at times. I feel like we're turning left on red. We're doing a lot of those things. So today was one of those. I had to stay up until 2 or I don't even know it was 1 a.m. to watch Ted Lasso. That was Jake's excuse for why he was on 3 hours of sleep.
Usually it's a day that ends in Y for that to be the case with Jake. But going back to your dad, who was a driver's ed instructor, I actually had a game last night where I went to go pick up my partner because he just had rotator cuff surgery, and he is an old driver's ed instructor. And I noticed I made a move that made him push his right foot down, and he's sitting in the passenger seat, which for those that have ever been through driver's ed knows that's the dummy brake, in case student driver doesn't know what he's doing. So how many times would you notice your dad doing that in your car as you were growing up, that he would instinctively hit the brakes and realizing, oh, blank, I can't stop this?
Yeah, definitely a couple of times, to say the least. I do think, like, for driver's ed teachers, I do think my dad did a nice job of, like, not being, like, crazy, driver's ed, passenger seat the whole time. Honestly, the best part about it was, like, he would have this car for the whole summer, and so, boom, we would, like, go to the elementary school parking lot and drive around with it and all of that. So I do feel like I had, like, a decent early exposure to it, and I think my mom was probably the one that made sure that oh no, Brad, boom, this. She acted like she had the brake in her front seat.
Kevin, from where I'm from, that's called tractors. That's how we learned to drive it at such a young age. All right, so
I was down in your neck of the woods the other weekend. I meant to text you. Played Chariot Run Golf Course.
Chariot Run, yeah.
Yeah, and refresh me on the city's name. Right next to South Central High School.
So for some reason that is labeled as Laconia. That's Elizabeth. Yeah. So, yes, next to South Central, Elizabeth, Indiana, the major metropolis that is the center of the South Harrison School Corporation, is like 2 miles down the road. So it's weird. Like Laconia is like 5 miles past another hill. So Elizabeth is where that is located. Yes, sir.
Got it. And is I totally off base here, or do I feel like South Central's made some deep tournament runs in, I don't know, maybe even football recently, or am I totally wrong?
Well, they have not made deep runs in football because they've never had football at that South Central, just so you know.
Wow. Okay.
So
am I thinking of a different South Central? Adams Central?
Adams Central is the football power. There are two South Centrals, and they're nowhere close to each other. So South Central of Elizabeth is in Harrison County in God's country, and literally, Kevin, just so you know, from where I grew up, you could take about 8 minutes of country roads and only cross a highway, not actually take it, and get from the Rakestraw Radio Ranch Turley Road version to get to Chariot Run Golf Course. The other South Central is South Central of Union Mills, which is in northwest Indiana, and they are the satellites, and they are slightly bigger, and I do believe they play football there.
Got it. Okay, well, now I have my South Central squared away. Chariot Run, very, very good public golf course, by the way. Right?
In conjunction with the casino that is down there, which is the reason why that thing was frankly built. All right, so this now starts sounding like a morning show. I have no idea what path we're going to take with this. In terms of non-Indianapolis 500 conversation, what has been the dominant topic over the course of the last couple of days?
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, we're still kind of putting a little bow tie on 500 chatter and the red flag and all of that. But, I mean, I do think, and I don't know, I haven't been around my computer for the last half hour or so, but, as of now, Zach Edey, I don't think it made anything public yet, one way or the other, on his intentions for the draft. So we definitely talked about that a good amount this morning. I did see right before, got away from my computer earlier, Cam Whitmore coming in from Villanova for a workout tomorrow for the Pacers. That's, I would say, easily the highest rated prospect they've had in yet. So a little bit of draft chatters. We're, a little over 3 weeks away from that. And then Colts-wise, being out there for the last OTA, or I guess it would have been the first open OTA, but it's the last one we've been able to watch on Thursday of last week. That kind of fell on our back burner just with Parkway the next morning. So we didn't chat a whole lot about that last week. So you're starting to get into these 11-on-11 sessions, and now you're getting some, okay, these are the updates, or necessarily, these are the guys that are participating. These are the guys that aren't participating.
June 1st is a big day in the NFL calendar, and that you typically see some veteran cuts. There's a financial element to it on why teams wait until that date to make some, veteran cuts. So could the Colts be, in line to look for a Mike Adams as a guy that they found at this part of the offseason?
Right.
If you go back almost a decade now. So those are, I think, kind of some of the, I guess we haven't spent a ton of time on it, but those are some things we started to get into today, and I'm sure we'll get into more the rest of the week.
All right, so if we're looking for the next pops, so to speak, since you bring up Mike Adams, I mean, he was an absolute godsend of a find that I think you ended up getting, 3 years here when he was, an afterthought when he was brought in. If you're going to go out and get that player this year, I'm not asking you to name me that name, what position would that player play? If you're going to go out and bring in another veteran from another team, you're bringing in a what if you're Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think safety is probably one of the couple that would be on that short list. I would think cornerback would be the other one. It's such a young room. And honestly, if you slot Kenny Moore into more of that nickel slot position, I guess, he wouldn't necessarily even qualify as kind of an outside corner there. But I think the one that, for me, Rake stands above the rest would be interior of the offensive line. And probably I could group the entire offensive line, but I'll throw kind of that right guard spot in there if I had to pick any of the five. And kind of the argument that I've had with myself about this over the last few weeks is, when you look at positions of need for the Colts this season, I am of the thinking of veteran free agent help to support Anthony Richardson should be kind of the single thought process in assessing what are your needs and how much you should invest in those needs. And if you're talking about positions on the defensive side of the ball, if those positions, which again, they are defense, if they're not directly impacting Richardson, I'm kind of good with letting the young guys roll. I know that sounds a little bit soft and maybe doesn't sound like the, hey, you're not all chips in on winning in 2023. Well, I mean, I'm not. And I know that kind of goes, debunks on everything, that, the Professional Football League and the NFL and how, parity kind of defines that league, how much it goes into it. But I just think this year is very much like how we talked about the Pacers back in October or November. It's about Halliburton taking a step. It's about Benedict Mather and he belongs at this level. It's about getting some sort of answer on Miles Turner. And you got all that, and no one really cares that they won 35 games. So, when I look at positions, again, I think a veteran free agent on the O-line, I actually probably would be open-minded to a veteran pass catcher. I don't think they are, but
right.
I would look into that a little bit more. But as far as safety and corner, I'd be a bit content if they just kind of stood where they are and rode with a lot of the young guys they already have back there.
Let's face it, when it comes to Anthony Richardson, we can notate in the parts of workouts we get to see how many first-team reps he is getting versus Gardner Minshew. We can be wowed by a particular throw that he is making, knowing he's not going to be hit. But I would say that the thing that would catch my attention most is kind of how the other players are acting around him and what the other guys are saying about him. So on those two fronts, anything that immediately comes to mind or catches your attention?
Yeah, I'll probably go back to maybe even before he got on the practice field in that, guys, I mean, can you imagine how, certainly you and I follow it, Rake, and report on it. All of our listening audience is a fan of it. We're pretty darn exhausted by this quarterback carousel. Clearly, this is it's approaching an NFL record, frankly, for having a different quarterback in consecutive week ones. Now I think it's whatever it's going to be, the 7th straight year, something like that. Well, imagine being a part of that football team. These guys aren't dumb. They know how much money the quarterback makes. They know how important that position is in the NFL. So I would say that kind of caught me first of you asked them these questions, they were extremely candid and just being about time that we've taken a chance and now we'll see if this guy can turn into something. Because I'm not saying the expectation should be there for an Anthony Richardson, leading the Colts to the Super Bowl on his rookie contract. But you can point to several quarterbacks over the last handful of years that have gotten their respective teams to deep playoff runs and to the Super Bowl. I would say the thing on the field that stood out to me a little bit more was actually something Gardner Minshew said, I guess this would have been last week now, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, when asked about, I kind of felt dumb asking the question, but Minshew was in one of those moods, and I feel like he just always is pretty good with, ask me anything. and I'll offer a really honest answer. And he had worked out with Richardson during the draft process. So I said to him, like, okay, I know you've talked about how different the ball is coming out of his hand versus your hand, but are there any similarities in your game? And he said he actually felt like, from like an RPO decision-making standpoint, knowing the right reads, having good footwork, getting the ball out quickly, processing, like he felt like those two were kind of similar. And I thought that was interesting because, when you think of like crazy elite athletes, oftentimes the stereotype that goes with it is they might struggle more from a mental game, whereas vice versa. The guys that maybe aren't as gifted athletically, they're the ones that cerebral-wise, check that box. So I thought that was kind of an interesting answer from Minshew in that. And I guess not too surprising because, again, Richardson, by all accounts, handled things from a mental standpoint at Florida, processing standpoint pretty well. That wasn't like a huge issue for him. Honestly, it's probably more of a Will Levis issue than it was a Richardson one. So I would say on field, and again, it's only really been 1 week plus, that is something that I found interesting from the guy that, theoretically he's quote-unquote competing with.
Listen, we all think the best case scenario is Anthony Richardson's quarterback on day one. I'm also of the opinion that determination has not been made yet, and that determination gets made at some point in time during training camp. And I think at some point in time after a preseason game or two, I think that is your time frame to make that decision, is 2-3 weeks out before that season opening game in early September. Just kind of your thoughts on the process that will need to play out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be fascinated, Rake, to see how they divvy up those reps late July into August. I mean, certainly I know you are, and it's not selfish by you at all, but you're very curious about that with your TV responsibilities coming up during the month of August. Right now, 50-50 split last week. We'll see how this week unfolds, and then 2 more weeks to go in the offseason program. I would assume it would take on that same sort of plan here to end the spring program. But then when you get into training camp, especially once that calendar turns to August, I would think you would like to commit to a guy, I mean, to your point, kind of in that middle of the month. And I would tend to side even a little bit before that. At least you're showing some of your hand. Because I am interested in this. The Colts play back-to-back Saturdays, right? The 12th and the 19th, is that right?
Yeah, correct, yep.
And then they have that Thursday night game, 5 days after the game on the 19th, and that's their final preseason game. And again, this is the preseason, and how people handle, how much you commit to starters in the preseason, all of that we will certainly debate.
And I always think, and let me jump in here, and I know you got plenty more to say of great intelligence. I always think that it's a different proposition when you have a rookie quarterback, that preseason games are completely different, especially in Richardson's case where he's got to have some level of experience.
Certainly, and I would agree with that. And again, kind of playing off of that, I would say, okay, does that mean Ryan Kelly would play more in the preseason?
I think you have to, frankly.
Yeah, if you think he's going to be the guy week one. So, when you get into that Saturday, Thursday, again, remember, there's only 3 preseason games now. So you got 3 of them, week 1, week 2, and week 3. Well, from week 2 to week 3, it's just a 5-day spread. Some veterans might say, whoa, I'm good, or I'm not used to doing that. Now, granted, it's a new coaching staff, and we'll see how they handle things, but I think that'll be something to watch as well. But I would say in kind of that August, 5th to 10th range, once you're in kind of that second week of camp, once you've put on the full pads, that preseason opener is the 12th. You've got the joint practices with the Bears the week after. I think you got to show a few cards there, and at least give an indication of where you're at from a practice standpoint, a rep standpoint. And, once you get into the late part of the month, you're probably going to start, formulating a game plan for week 1, as we know full well, what that game should mean to this franchise.
Well, let's shift over from Colts, who obviously will be working the next couple of weeks, to the Pacers, who will be drafting here in about 3 weeks. And again, they're going to get a talented player at 7. Could they potentially try to package and move up a spot or two? It's certainly possible. Are they taking all their 4 selections after 7? I highly doubt it. You brought up, hey, there's a veteran cut line for the NFL that's coming up tomorrow. Could a player be brought in by the Colts? Is there a veteran that's going to come in for the Pacers, and not of the George Hill, James Johnson variety, not of the guys that would be, hey, just the wise old sage that can work with the young guys? No, I mean a dude that's actually going to see playing time in the rotation. Do you see a player like that being brought in by Kevin Pritchard, or is it simply going to be the number 7 pick and then whatever moves you can make after that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the fact that you're able to ask that question along with having the top 10 pick and then 3 more in the next, 20-some selections is just a reminder of how successful the Pacers have been with this rebuild. Like, they are in a position where you feel good about some of their young pieces, yet they enter an offseason with ample cap space if they want to entertain that, with, 4 picks in the top 32 selections. So they can maneuver and they can kind of pick and choose. And I think a big decision internally they have to decide is, if you would ask them back in October, what would this offseason look like? They would say, another serious part of the rebuild.
Sure.
Well, now there's probably some chatter like, hey, look at the East. There's a little bit of dysfunction with some of these teams. Can the Pacers now accelerate things a little bit? Do you have a sense of urgency? Is there any ownership influence in that? I think those are all real questions that you have. I tend to think you still use that pick on obviously a young guy, and you still try to grow because, if you're going to make any move for a veteran, yes, they might be more of a sure thing, but it's also twofold. It's financial commitment and it's a massive draft pick commitment as well in what you would have to give up. And this is probably, or at least you hope, the last time you're going to be drafting in the top 10 for quite some time. So I'm probably a little bit more of the take the guy at 7, maybe package some of the late first rounders and see if you can, find a veteran to, not be your top 3 or 4 guys, but could certainly help you out. That's probably the path I would explore. But again, we've said this about the Pacers for several off seasons now, and really even when they had the previous era of Oladipo and Brogdon and those guys, because they didn't have a marquee player, they have always been in a pretty good cap situation. A large portion of the NBA can't say that. So can you factor into some salary dump situations, those sorts of things, where you can benefit from a team that all of a sudden looks at it and says, man, Buddy Hield's making that much, and we're in a rebuild in Sacramento? All right, we will, kind of throw him in as the extra piece when Halliburton was looked at as the marquee guy. So I think those are some areas that the Pacers need to try and explore. And it does, Kevin Pritchard strikes me as a guy that is, and has said this, he's very open-minded to all of that. And certainly those will be the debates between now and June 22nd when the draft gets here.
I'm going to be doing a basketball game at Cathedral High School next Wednesday night, and there are 2 future Notre Dame Fighting Irish players playing in the game. I assume you're going to be there?
Oh, wow. Tell me more. I now that you said this, I do remember seeing something at Cathedral coming up here from a basketball standpoint, but I'm not familiar with the game. Is it it's got to be one of the senior games or something like that?
It would be the junior-senior game, and obviously you got Marcus Burton and now Logan Imes that are playing in the game that are both going to be playing for Micah Shrewsbury at Notre Dame. Again, I'll have a webcast you can watch at ISCSportsNetwork.com, but knowing you, I assume that you would not miss the chance to go back to the alma mater to watch this game.
Okay, so give me the date on this again.
Next Wednesday, so 1 week from tonight. Girls' game, I want to say, is at 6, and the boys' game to follow in doubleheader fashion.
Okay.
I'll be the guy making noise with headphones on at either up in the balcony or perhaps on the opposite baseline right corner as you walk in.
Okay, well, I think I need to be all in on this. It sounds like a great opportunity. I've asked you about Marcus Burton a lot. Imes I've not seen a whole lot of, but I know some people are kind of intrigued by a little bit of a combo guard situation.
Well, the thing is I think that he is a good fit with Burton because Burton is more of a scoring guard, even though he's got more of a point guard body. Imes is kind of a bigger point guard. I think they're a very good combo together. Now, how much success you're going to have with a new coach and an all freshman backcourt, I'm not sure, but I do think that their 2 skill sets play off of each other pretty well.
Well, the thing that, first off, I'm very impressed that Marcus Burton maintained his commitment. I get that he's a pin kid, but he stayed committed throughout all of that, rather, I guess, multiple-month process that Mike Bray announced that he wasn't going to be coming back and was going to retire.
I am curious, though, that Micah Shrewsbury has not gone out and done anything from a veteran point guard standpoint in the portal, so he might be handing Marcus Broughton the ball from day one.
Could be the case. Again, you've got a little time there, so to speak. Knowing that you're young and building from that point. Before I let you go, obviously, again, I said to kind of begin the conversation, everything but the 500. So let me ask you about the 500 as we wrap this up. Your thoughts on the race on Sunday?
Well, I thought it was great. I mean, just terrific drama and theater late in the race. I did think sitting there, and I was sitting in turn one with my in-laws. I mean, through the first 90 laps, I thought to myself, this has got to be one of the quicker races of all time.
Right.
Like, we hadn't gotten to yellow. And I know it's not the best thing to say from a safety standpoint, but I kind of leaned over to my brother-in-law. I was like, it would be the worst thing in the world to get a yellow or two. And certainly once you got into that and just the natural, how plans evolve over 500 miles, certainly, again, turned into unbelievable drama. And I think by all accounts, you saw that from a rating standpoint and how people viewed it, and specifically late in the race to witness that. I went back and watched the highlights because I didn't want to stay up for the whole replay on Sunday with having to wake up early for the Monday show. And I almost forgot, Rake, how impressive the Newgarden pass was on, I guess it would have been 2 restarts before the final one. That was when Pato Award ended up crashing right in front of Jake there in turn 3. Like, Newgarden pulled off a wild move to get the outside of Erickson and Pato. And so it almost was like that move to me, looking back on it, that, you could have thrown a red flag potentially after the Pato crash. Or, excuse me, you could have gone yellow there.
Sure.
Newgarden would have been the winner at that point. It was almost like he kind of deserved it. And, like, yes, we are obviously going to remember the pass on the last lap outside of Erickson in turn 3 as the pass. But this is a dude that methodically put himself in a position to be in those sorts of, okay, are you going to make the pass? Are you able to? Are you not? But he also had a hell of a run there, a few laps before the last one. That was great. So, I thought it was a really, really terrific race. I understand that I'm the common fan. I'm not the diehard IndyCar fan that says, show me in the rule book why that red flag should be thrown. But I think when you're a sport that is trying to grow like that and you continue to, keep it at the 500 miles and how chaotic the previous crash was, that would have led to all sorts of video replays and trying to sift through, okay, who won it? Who's in second? Who's in third? Who's in fourth? That confusion, I think, would have put a little bit of a black eye on things. So I was totally fine with the decision. And obviously, I think Newgarden, his celebration said it all. I think in a way it's a little Phil Mickelson, winning his first major. You can tell by his emotion, what that obviously meant to him.
Leave it to Kevin Bowen to compare the Indy 500 to the PGA Tour. It's a perfect way to end this portion of the program. As always, appreciate the time, my friend. I'll see you Friday at Colts Complex.
All right, see you, Ray.
You got it. Kevin Bowen, of course, he and Jake Query, they take to the radio airwaves tomorrow at 7 a.m. right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I've had 5 segments of great guests. The last 2 segments, it's all on me. Let's see if we can get through this together. Your telephone calls, 317-239-1070. Hit me up on Twitter at Greg Rakestraw or email the program to greg@1070thefan.com. We're back after this.
If you travel 465 on the south side of Indy, heads up. INDOT has announced upcoming directional closures for work activities associated with the I-69 Finish Line project. Beginning June 2nd, eastbound 465 will close between I-70 and I-65 for approximately 3 weeks.
JMV Takeover, and I have a surprise for John on the show on Saturday. I'm not on every Saturday. I will be on this one. I'm pretty sure I can guarantee it. So be tuned in at some point in time on Saturday night's show. I tried to call John on B1057. I think I called after the Indy 11 game, like at about 9:45, and John was simply too busy to take my telephone call. I think I literally stayed on the line for like 15 minutes, the entire drive home. No luck in getting my request for either, I'm assuming, because I had planted the seed for this when I made my weekly appearance on the show last week, little Judas Priest Living After Midnight. I'm assuming that played in the 12 a.m. hour of the show. But I was actually going to call him with like a live request and like a suggestion for later. So maybe I'll bring that request this week. You never know. But the JMV Takeover back on Saturday night. John back in this chair. The chair might still be warm for me sitting here, so probably actually won't sit in this chair when he comes back tomorrow. 317-239-1070. You want to join the conversation, topic or topics of your choice, feel free. You can email the program to Greg at 1070thefan or tweet to me at Greg Rakestraw. And as I always say, you know my phone number, the bat phone works too. You can always just, skip the line and text me, and you never know, it just might make the show. While Kevin and I were having that conversation, and frankly, for the last hour, I have just been, I wouldn't say doom scrolling Twitter, but just kind of looking to see if we've got word on Zach Edey just yet. And so far that I have seen, we do not have an answer on Zach Edey. But there is another player of note, not locally, but certainly a very well-known college player that has announced he is done playing college basketball. He is moving on to the NBA, and that is Oscar Tshiebwe of the University of Kentucky. Again, had it not been for the change in NIL, probably Oscar would have left Kentucky after last year's NCAA tournament, which included a loss to St. Peter's here in Indianapolis. He went back, and now he is on to the NBA. So a key cog leaving University of Kentucky. The other player of note, and again, I can give you chapter and verse on the Horizon League, the Crossroads League, because those are the leagues I cover on a regular basis. To a lesser degree, the Missouri Valley Conference. Otherwise, in Division I hoops, it's like Indiana and Purdue, and I kind of fade out at this point. Arthur Kaluma, who was at Creighton, has withdrawn from the NBA draft and is going to transfer. So, again, one of the potential notables and a little bit of a weakening for a really good team in the Big East. Arthur Kaluma is heading elsewhere to play next year in college hoops. In terms of Edey, again, I've always thought he's coming back just because the game has kind of changed around him, and you will have some teams that will find a need for Zach Edey, but again, it's crazy to think about this. You could make more money playing in college basketball as a second-round pick than probably you would in the NBA. So I've always thought he's coming back, but we'll see. Time will tell. Talked about this briefly with Kevin, but just maybe what the offseason looks like for the Pacers. And to me, the intrigue is, it's obviously going to be, the intrigue is going to be what happens at pick number 7. But I'm almost as curious as to what's going to happen with the other 4 picks, not in terms of whom they are picking, but you hit on so many player moves last year that you don't have this huge need to bring in this new crop of talent. You have a definitive need that being in the 7th pick is going to help you. And seemingly, it's by no means a guarantee you're picking 7, but the player that seems to be most mentioned or most linked with the Pacers is Jarris Walker from Houston. For example, I'm reading, I don't put this huge amount of credit on like simulated picks and percentage of chances and things like that, but I'll at least reference in here. Hoops Hype has this mock draft aggregate or simulator or something along those lines that says that Walker, as of now, has a 62% chance of landing to the Indiana Pacers at pick number 7. And I can tell you that Jarris plays for Houston, or played for Kelvin Sampson at Houston. I know he's a freshman, like virtually every other top pick in the draft is going to be. And I know that his strong suit is a wing defender, which clearly is what the Pacers were lacking. They found shooting, need to have more of a defensive presence, and Walker seems to be that guy. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've seen him play, I've studied the tape. No, I haven't done that. But it seems to be that's the guy that is most often linked or talked about with the Indiana Pacers. And it's going to be him. It's going to be another talented player at 7. You're going to get a quality piece unless you really screw it up. But you're going to get a quality piece. What is intriguing to me is, do you bring in another veteran to play in the rotation? Do you try to trade some of those back-end picks almost for future picks? And the reason I bring this up is the following. Miles Turner's under contract for 2 more years, but he healed in the last year of his deal. There's been debate as to, do you move Daniel Tice? Do you move TJ McConnell? Obviously, Benedict Mathurin, long-term piece. You've got Jalen Smith, probably for 1 more year, and then this time he's going to exercise his player option and not kind of give the Pacers a sweetheart deal. We know that Tyrese Halliburton is not going anywhere. Duarte, we'll see. Nesmith, you're bringing him back. Jordan Nwora for $3 million for 1 year, you're bringing him back. You know Isaiah Jackson's going to be here. You got to steal an Andrew Nembhard. You get the idea, okay? I just rattled off like 8 or 9 pieces that you know are going to be here next year, and you typically play a 9 or 10-man rotation. You don't exactly have this room to bring in 4 or 5 new pieces. And frankly, in terms of cap space, you've got the room to bring in another veteran. Do you potentially look to bring in a veteran piece along with the 7th pick? So to me, that's why, again, I'm curious as to who the 7 is going to be, because I know it's going to be a good player. It has to be a player that is a major rotational piece, and obviously there's a guy that you need to be able to fit defensively as to what you could do going forward. But do you think about bringing in a free agent? Because, again, from a cap standpoint, you got room. The Pacers heading into the season, they have the 2nd most cap space. I shouldn't have 2nd, but they got a lot of it. They are one of, let me count here real quick, nothing like counting on live radio. They are one of 7 teams that in terms of salary accounted for next year has under $100 million on the books. So at quick check, they have the 5th most cap space available in the NBA. Before signing their number 7 pick, before making any other potential draft moves with 2 other first-round picks that they can either take or potentially move later in the first round, and 2 more picks in the second round. And I don't think to bring in a veteran, especially if it's on a short-term deal, you necessarily have to move a Buddy Hield or even move a TJ McConnell. I think McConnell's a valuable piece. And again, if you've got Halliburton and Nembhard, and those are your guys going forward, as much as McConnell has been wonderful here, it is fair to question what his role is going to be going forward. So just something to think about as the calendar flips to NBA draft month as of 12:01 tonight. We'll take this quick timeout. We'll come back with some final thoughts, kind of recap our guests, etc., etc. And time for your telephone calls, too. 317-239-1070 is the telephone number, at Greg Rakestraw on Twitter, or email the program as well, greg@1070thefan.com. We'll wrap it up next.
This is Rob Evans from INHP. We believe all people in Indianapolis deserve to live in a safe, decent, and affordable home in a vibrant neighborhood. Learn more at inhp.org.
14 Central Indiana CarX locations keeping your spring road ready, including lifetime brake pads, $109.99, and an AC inspection, $19.99. To find the location nearest you, CarX.com today.
Antler Point Golf Course in Rushville invites competitive golfers to enter the inaugural first annual Bobo Link Open Saturday, July 8th. 18 holes, USGA rules. First prize, $6,000. Second prize, $3,000. Third prize, $1,000. Certified USGA 6 handicap or lower are eligible. The first annual Bobo Link Open, Saturday, July 8th at Antler Point Golf Course in Rushville. To find out more, visit antlerpointgolf.com. That's antlerpointgolf.com. Spell point with an E. There's a more intelligent way to keep your home comfortable this summer. Luxair Premium Residential Systems, with unquestionable efficiency to save you money. Undeniable quality, because every Luxair unit is designed, engineered, and assembled to last. Now that's a smart choice in home comfort. Contact Capital Supplies to learn more about becoming a Luxair dealer. Capital Supplies and Luxair, a combination you can count on. 317-926-6061.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code NEXT for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can
program. In case you missed the show, here is what you have missed to this point. Right now, you're missing your chance to call the show because that was Rick Springfield you just lined up, correct? And we're giving away free Rick Springfield tickets. Fellas, I don't have the date of the show. When is the Rick Springfield show?
It is August 5th at the TCU Amphitheater in White River State Park.
So it's downtown on August 5th. Call the number 3 right now. We'll win free tickets at 317-239-1070. If you want to go see Rick Springfield, here's your opportunity. Dial us up now, 317-239-1070. On the program today, you had the following guests. At 3:30, we were joined by Luke Bosso. He is the brand new director of athletics at IUPUI. Obviously something that is near and dear to my heart, having been a part of IUPUI Athletics in either the radio or television/video voice. Do I count as the television voice when it's on ESPN Plus? Does that count? Because I have basically now had a relationship with IUPUI for 20 of the last 23 years. Somewhere along those lines. It was 9 years of radio. I think I just completed my 10th or 11th straight year of doing the television call for every home game. So close enough, 20 years. So again, I'm a little partial to IUPUI, and obviously I think I know the inner workings of it very well. And Luke is a person that I also know very well, and it's an out-of-the-box hire. I think an out-of-the-box hire was needed. I like the idea. So you can go back and listen to that podcast available, 1075thefan.com. With what I do with ISC Sports Network, there are kind of 3 different times of the year. There's football season, there's basketball season, there's all-star season. All-star season is never as busy as it is for me as it is next week. I've got the junior game in Jeffersonville. I've got the junior-senior game at Cathedral. Clearly, Kevin Bowen will be there. I've got the Indiana-Kentucky game in Kentucky and in Owensboro at the Sports Center. And I've got the game at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Actually, Rob Brown has that game. We have that on ISC. So I'll have 3 nights. We, as the day job for me, have 4 nights of Indiana-Kentucky or Indiana All-Star coverage. I thought it was good to have Mike Broughton on the show to talk about that early in the 3 o'clock hour of the show. At 4 o'clock, again, if you're in the soccer business, as I am, today was a big day locally with the groundbreaking of 11 Park that will be in hopes completed in 23 months. So the Indy 11 can begin their 12th season of play in April of 2025 at their brand new home. And then the hope would then be that the new women's professional team that will play in the USL Super League would then start playing in August of 2025, which would be the 2nd year of that league. Brad Hauter joined me on the show. We talked all about the building, all about the impacts for the team going forward. Again, 1075thefan.com. I cannot tell you how impressed I was with the 2 young men that joined the show from the University of Indianapolis. Perhaps I picked guests with something good to say. I also did pick one guest that's going to be going to law school next year, bypassing your eligibility, and another who by the time he is done pitching at UIndy next year, sounds like he's going to have his master's degree in tow as well. Adam Rakestraw, by the way, you know, I didn't, I can't match him in athleticism. Perhaps I can match him in brains. I was on a full academic ride at UIndy. Adam has been academic all-GLVC each of the last 3 years. Maybe he's been named for a 4th year as well. Really enjoyed a first conversation. I think maybe other than interviewing my own wife, it'd be the first time I had somebody on the show who had my last name. It was kind of cool. And then again, EJ White, and literally his success over the last couple of weeks pitching for UIndy has cost me a chance to work with both his mom and his dad. Because the Indy 11 been in talks with his mom about potentially joining me on the women's broadcasts for the Indy 11 team, and they have their home opener on Friday night. And then also his dad, you know, while we are on, I wouldn't say competing post-game shows, but we rarely have a chance to work together on air. We normally have a chance to do that one time a year. I'll mix in a little golf coverage next week. Our friends at Crooked Stick have their huge annual junior event, The Die, and usually Eddie, as a Crooked Stick member, serves as our congenial host for interviews and things like that. And now he's going to be a little busy following his son to North Carolina. So I'd love to have an EJ on the program as well. And as per usual, Kevin Bowen was absolutely fantastic. You can go back and listen to any of those interviews at any time at 1075thefan.com. 317-239-1070. Who was our lucky winner of our Rick Springfield tickets?
Mr. Matt Brandenburg.
Congratulations, Matt. Enjoy the show coming up on August 5th at TCU. I've got to say this. I think I'm going to go to a show at that amphitheater the next weekend. I believe August 13th is when SWV is playing as part of a greater show at White River State Park. I shouldn't say a greater show. It's part of a 3, 4, 5 different acts are going to be playing that night. And that's going to be kind of a busy weekend for me. I'm going to be going to Buffalo like the 2 days before for the Colts preseason opener. I believe that is also Brickyard weekend. So I may have something to do that Sunday as well. But it's on my radar that SWV is playing on that show August the 13th because I have now gotten to a point of life where things kind of come full circle. I was getting ready to start my senior year of high school. I went on vacation with a buddy of mine. That would be from up in this area, the pride of Waldron, Indiana. And I was in Myrtle Beach for a week. We capped off our visit to Myrtle Beach by seeing SWV in a way overcrowded club on the beach in South Carolina that was so overcrowded and so hot, the band played 2 songs and up and left. And in my mind, Sisters with Voices became Sisters with Velocity because they got out of there. So I might actually come back and enjoy seeing them more of a full show some 30 years later. So no offense to Rick Springfield. I'm sure it's going to be a great show. I'm probably going to go back to a show at the amphitheater the next weekend to get more of the full set from SWV. That was today's program. You can go back and listen to it at any point in time you'd like to at 1075thefan.com. One other thing I wanted to talk about, because again, we are kind of playing the waiting game. We played that Ted Knight clip that whether it was intended to play there or not in terms of talking about the Zach Edey story. Literally, if you've kind of heard me tap dancing at times the last couple of segments, is because I'm trying to spit out things that I can say intelligently in like 30 to 45 second bursts, just in case there is breaking news. And I'm not sure it's going to happen in the time while I am on the air with you. But had hoped that we could tell you, hey, Zach Edey's staying, Zach Edey's going. That news has not been made official just yet. So obviously, if I don't get to have it on the program, the guys can talk about it on the variety of shows that we'll have for you tomorrow here on The Fan. Again, my thought is that he is coming back, but I don't know that for sure. That's not insider information. That's just me trying to make 2 + 2 = 4. So in terms of things that'll be on the radar tomorrow, we're a day closer to the NBA draft. We're continuing Colts workouts. And by the way, something I saw flash on social media earlier, not in terms of breaking news, but something that strikes me as cool and intelligent to do. Go check the Colts social media because they took some highlights of bringing guys like Edgerrin James and Antoine Bethea back to, bringing those guys back to speak to, I assume, this year's rookies, but maybe even the entirety of the team as kind of a sign of things to do. Looking for something to do? Check that out on social media. Time for me to exit stage left. The band is playing me off the show. We'll find out at some point in time what Zach Edey's decision is going to do. But the thing that should make you rejoice more than that, John is back tomorrow. Thanks for putting up with me. Here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Indianapolis.